You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It's your host, Brian Fullerton here, hanging out with you guys. Actually, we are hanging out live with the Aumans, Caleb and Brittany. How you guys doing?
What's up?
Great.
Hello.
Awesome. And then we also got the beautiful wifey for lifey with us. How you doing, babe?
Hi.
Hi. Your voice is so pretty and petite on the microphone, you know? It's like, hello. But so we've actually been hanging with these guys all weekend. It's Labor Day weekend, which is really cool. I don't know if they invited us out or if we just told them we're coming. How did that work out?
We're happy to have you. Whatever. We'll take it.
I think you just said you were coming.
It was like a month ago. And I said, I want to get together with these guys. And we were looking at like the next 4 or 5 weeks. And I'm like, we're so busy. You guys listening and you're busy. They're busy. But I said, like, I want to hang out with them. And you said, well, what weekend? I go, it's going to be 5-6 weeks out, but let's start now, have that conversation. Yeah. And we were supposed to come down here last weekend. Of course, didn't work out. But then I said, well, what about Labor Day weekend? And you guys were taking a couple days off. So you guys were like, hey, why don't you come on down? We'll host you. So we've been hanging here. They've taken us to breakfasts, dinners, lunches. They fed us, which is good. You know, the prerequisites, right, to living. And but we've also we've got to see their house.
Their chickens. And their horse.
They have a big piece of property, like it's part of their family, like 150 acres. We got to shoot guns, right, Caleb?
Yeah, it was good. That was awesome, man.
That was a good time.
Really cool.
We were shooting all of our pew-pews, which is really exciting. And Caleb is like, you know, military tactical. Like he's like, I bet I can shoot this our target. He like takes the 4-wheeler out with the Milwaukee measuring wheel, and I'm like, what are you doing with that? He's like, well, I definitely want to give the target a fighting chance. Let's put it at 450 feet. I'm like, 150 yards out. I'm like, oh, okay, John Wick. And so he like rides the 4-wheeler all the way out, like a football field out. He's like, he comes back. He's like, you can hit that, right? I go, I guess. Let's find out. And then what gun did you pull out? The 30
out 6?
Yeah, the out 6. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, and then you shot that.
Yeah.
That was a big pew-pew. We're having fun with that. So,
which that thing needs sighted in, being as I didn't hit a 18 by 24 board, and in my AR, same deal.
10-foot plume of dirt piles up, you know, just in the wind. I'm like, I think you hit it. He's like, you think? I'm like, no, but sure. It looked like a mortar round instead. But so right now we're hanging out. Is this your parents' house?
Yes, this is my parents.
Yeah, so we're hanging out. We actually have like a really beautiful pool, like kind of like a subdivision home on 2 acres. Beautiful pool in the back area, like patio, a little outdoor kitchen. We're hanging inside the indoor part of the kitchen, and Liz and I are like building the dream. Like, look at this beautiful home. We like this stuff. And so anyway, so we're just gonna be hanging out with these guys. If you guys listen to on the mower, you guys are just at the gym, whatever you guys are doing, hanging out with us for a little while. We're gonna talk about business. I know Brittany's got questions for us. I think we got questions for them. We'll see what we cover and just get to hang out with the Aumans, which we really, really appreciate their time. If you guys don't know Caleb and Brittany, they have a great hardscaping company. Well, Caleb, why don't you give a little introduction? Where are you guys at? What do you guys do? What do you guys your focus on? And maybe give these guys up to speed if they don't know who you guys are.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man. We are Brittany and Caleb Auman. We own Auman. I say we own. She owns Auman Landscape and our other company, Auman Environmental, as well as the Hardscape Academy. And
the voice.
Yeah, right.
And the voice out there.
And so we're a landscape design build firm here in beautiful southeastern Ohio, Fairfield County. I'm looking at Brian as I'm saying that, just waiting on the
Fairfield County, Ohio.
Yeah, right. So he acts like we're in Alabama or something. You know, just a couple hours south of Michigan. It's like we're in the boonies here. So so we're a design build firm down here. We've got 4 full-time guys. We are strictly in hardscape construction, kind of general construction and stormwater management. That's our deal. And we also have the Hardscape Academy, which we're trying to teach folks that want to learn hardscape stuff. So that's our deal.
I like it. Yep. And Brittany,
cool.
You're a mom of 3, beautiful family. We got Levi, Zeke, and Addison.
Addison, good job. 2, 4, and 6.
They were 2, 4, 6. They're the cutest kids ever. What was it? Zeke is in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. He was showing us all of his toys and tractors and his cars and in his bedroom. And I'm like, which one's your favorite? I'm like, the John Deere this. And I called something wrong. I'm like, is this a harvester? He's like, that's a fertilizer truck. I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. Like he knows his toys. It was really, really cute. I'm like, okay, like we'll just let you lead the toy time, you know? So it was really, really cute. But well, listen to this. Let's hear from our show sponsors really quick. We do appreciate those guys supporting the show. We'll also kick it over to Mr. Producer. He can run through those really quick, and then we'll come on right back.
Hello, it's Mr. Producer. And while I'm certainly no rocket surgeon, brain scientist, however that silly quote goes, I am smart enough not to make any stupid comments when the boss has his wife on the show. So before we hear a word from Xmark, here's a little of what is still to come on this episode.
It was one of those gut things like, I know this is such the right decision for us. It was $40,000 at the time, a lot of money. It still is. But it was like, I'm telling you, Britt, I know this is the way to go. We really need to do this. This is so where we need to go.
And we had been working so hard to get out of debt. And, we only had one loan on a piece of equipment. I was like,
we're almost there.
Like, we don't have to do that. We can
we can just be out of debt and it'll be great.
He's like, but I know this is what we can do with it. This is where we're going to go with this. And you just have to take that leap of faith.
And in the meantime,
he knows what he's doing. And
sure.
You can't work with your spouse if you can't trust that they'll make good decisions.
It is going to be a lot of fun just to eavesdrop on today's conversation. More from the boss, Brian, and his boss, Liz, and their good friends, Brittany and Caleb Auman, coming up as Fullerton Unfiltered continues in just a moment.
At Xmark, we've poured decades of leading-edge engineering and old-fashioned work ethic into our Laser Z, the pioneering commercial zero-turn rider more landscape pros trust. So now you can experience cut quality, performance, comfort, durability, and reliability beyond your wildest dreams. Stop by your local dealer or visit xmark.com to experience an Xmark Laser Z and the attractive financing offers available now.
We're talking lawns, lessons, and life. It's the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Here's Brian.
Awesome. Good deal. We'll always appreciate Marty taking care of the show, sponsors, and the show notes, and all the different information that he brings to you guys to keep the podcast going. We super appreciate it. So, let's do this. Let's kick it over to these guys because, we get to come down here. We get to talk to you guys a couple times a year. You guys just came up to Minnesota. Actually, let's start with that because we haven't got to catch up with Brittany since her whole live event that she did with, what was the
Women in Construction.
Women in Construction?
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit.
So we didn't really know what we were doing when we went up there. It was 12 girls. We're calling it the Crew Collab.
Okay.
And we're just trying to support the construction industry because there's obviously a shortage in labor.
Yeah.
And so we're not only targeting women, but we're targeting men, but we're trying to help companies learn how to incorporate women. Mm-hmm. So a lot of issues, like you go on a construction site, where's the girl going to go to the bathroom? Right.
Sure.
And, if you're pregnant, trying to accommodate to that, and 14-hour shifts are hard.
Oh, yeah.
For pregnancy. So we're just trying to create materials for other companies to promote and just use to recruit women. And the other initiative is...
Caleb's drinking his coffee. Thanks, Caleb.
God, that was awful. I'm sorry.
The other part of that is recruiting kids and not 12-year-old kids, but showing because they don't have to go to college. You can start in lawn care. You can own a construction company. You can do whatever you want to do.
Sure.
Without going $120,000 in debt.
Right. Yeah.
So we just talked about a lot of things and how to build with that. And we have some other brands that are getting behind that and supporting the initiative. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
That's
super
really
cool. Very early stages.
I think it's so cool.
Who put that together? How did you get involved in that whole process? Because that's pretty cool.
So they're I think there's 12 girls in this group. And they messaged me and they're like, would you be interested in doing this? And it's this private DM thing on Instagram. And Missy Sherber, she owns a construction company and a demolition company. So she started it and she works with Caterpillar. She's an ambassador for Caterpillar.
Sure.
And they're a big deal with it. And then there's a consultant from Steel that used to work from Steel Toe Consulting.
Oh, okay.
And so she's kind of handling all the marketing stuff and the sponsorships. And then every woman in there is from a different area. There's the oil lady, Wendy. She's out of Chicago and she does all oil. We have someone who's a mine, works for a mining company and is all about rocks. We have project managers in there, and I'm the only one from the landscape world.
Okay.
And so it's just cool to bring everyone together. From no one does the same thing in the group.
Yeah.
And so we're able to pull from different industries and kind of make a collective group.
What do you think that you offered to the group? Did they offer you anything in particular? Hey, here's why we want you part of this, or what's your take on? Because you and Caleb run the business together,
right?
And you own the business actually.
So there was only two other husband-wife couples that run businesses.
Okay.
Like I said, I was the only one from the green industry. We'll call it.
Sure.
But the main thing is just kids. Not everyone has kids and makes this work. So that was a big deal on what people want for maternity and what's hard for pregnancy. And everyone it seemed like it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
Like everyone had their own little thing to add to our questions. And a lot of the event was just, what is our biggest hurdles in this? What is going to be our biggest problem?
Sure.
And what are we going to focus on over the next 3 years? And we kind of built like a 5-year plan. Like this year, we're going to focus on just getting big companies thinking about hiring women.
Absolutely.
And that would solve a majority of your labor shortage. And it's not just people in the field, like hiring female project managers, just looking outside the box for things. So
no, I love it. I think it's, I mean, women, like, they have the attention to detail. They get the big picture. They're actually better in relationships with sales and closing and just managing people. I mean,
a lot of people were saying like women are easier on equipment.
I could see that.
I could totally see that.
So like, you know, like, just interesting things like that. And the way they approach a project is totally different from how, and we even find that in the office, Caleb and I, like, I'm looking from it from the right and he's like at the left. I'm like, okay, so how do we combine these two things to meet the common goal? And it was just a really eye-opening experience to see everyone everyone had the same problems and the same complicated, everyone had the labor shortage. Everyone has, you know, it's hard to train people.
Sure.
And I think the cool thing about bringing in the green industry part of it is so many people start out in lawn care. So many kids are 16 and they start with a mower.
Yep.
And that's like the gateway to construction. You know, you either want to do lawn care, you either want to go to landscaping, or you're like, no, I really want to run a bulldozer now.
Yeah.
And so I really do think like lawn care is the gateway to the rest of
gateway drug of construction.
It is the gateway to entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Well, I personally like the part where you said, like, even for the ladies, to offer them a career path that's not necessarily college focused. And if you want to go to college, that's great. Like, there's no wrong.
But it doesn't need to be for everybody. And I think, I think it's so important because when you go to school, that's all that you're told is that you need to go to higher, level education, college, get in debt, and then be a slave to your debt for the rest of your life, paying it off.
Especially for women, because like they're not, when you go to the school, for the career schools, at least, like around here, we have technical schools that you can go to.
Yeah.
And they're not there targeting women to go to the plumbing or the HVAC program.
Electrician.
They're targeting you to go to beauty school.
Exactly.
Which isn't bad, but it's not for everybody. Yeah.
But like, just to let women know, it's like, well, you can be an HVAC. You can do landscaping.
Sure.
You're not limited to college or being a beautician.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with any of those, but just
more opportunity.
There's more options.
It's okay to find your passion.
Right? Yeah. Well, and even if you didn't want to just be like you said, labor, or you're doing the work, but you can own the business too. Like women-owned businesses. I think I was just listening to your guys' podcast with Element and Stanley. Yeah. And, there's women-owned businesses and a lot of opportunities and benefits and perks there too, which is really cool. So if, a young girl who's really smart, really intelligent wants to run the company and, boss a bunch of 20-year-old dudes and 35-year-old dudes around with excavating equipment, like, why not? Like, that's really, really neat. I think it's really cool. That was up in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Because we got to hang out with Caleb. We got to borrow him while you were going through your guys' fun event. And Caleb was coming over. And I think Caleb was like just kind of lurking. He's like, what do I do? What? He's like, just like, what about me?
Lurking.
So it just happened to be like, how the planets like mysteriously align, right? Keith Kalfas and Ashley, Liz and ourselves, we were hanging with Stan. And you came up there too, Britt, which was really cool. We got to see Stanley's place. And Stanley invited you, Caleb, to come up to his cottage, his cabin, which was, we've told a lot of stories about Stanley's cabin. If you guys think that by any means, if you think that like Stanley, a dirt monkey, anything's like a shtick or a facade or anything, or it's not. Like Stanley is Stanley, like in person and on the videos. He's got foxes, he's got squirrels, he's got wild birds, he's got just crazy stuff everywhere. He's like, yeah, this is my man cave that I built in the bathroom. It's 15 by 15. It's all like, it looks like a cave. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is actually in your cottage, like actually at your home. He's like, yeah. I'm like,
it was so weird seeing it in real life.
I was like,
seeing it online.
Yeah. I thought you just built this for the views,
it made Stan like a real person, because you see him on YouTube and you see him in person, like, oh my God, that's Stan. Yeah. That's like Stan Genetic.
Larger than life.
And then you go see him and normal. And that's like meeting you guys.
Yeah, we're not normal. We're crazy.
I remember I saw
learned that.
GIE last year. There was like a poster with your face
Oh
on it.
my God.
I have my picture taken next to it.
Oh my God. We didn't know that they had asked for a photo.
Yeah,
had no idea
that
that was there. And then
God.
we walk in, and similarly, we saw Stan's photo first because it's like him on one side and Brian on the other, and we're like, ha ha ha, look at Stan, like this is so funny. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, Brian, you're on the other side.
I was making fun of Stan. I shot him Instagram stories and DMs. I was like, dude, you're such a dork. Look at you on the Cub Cadet
Putting
photo.
like the Snapchat filters on it,
Yeah. Oh yeah, we were swapping the baby, the face like you see with babies on Facebook, and I'm making fun of it, and she's like doing these hand gestures. You guys can't see in real life, but I'm like the neck one. I'm like, stop, and I'm like, I'm just making fun. And she's like, stop, seriously, stop. And I'm like, why? She's like, she turns the sign around. I'm like, oh no. And it's like Brittany said, my face is plastered on these signs that are like 2 foot by 3 foot.
I sent a photo of it in the family group chat that we have going on, and his mom's like, can you bring one of those home? I'm gonna frame it.
Oh, we've been terrorizing Lancaster County, you and I, because like every time we go out to eat, I'm like messing with the servers and
terrible.
Mask, no mask, paper straws.
I'm never going to be able to go to any of that.
Carbon footprint and ketchup packets and all that kind of stuff.
It was different. Well,
it's such a fun weekend.
We got to hang out with you guys a couple times in the past. We get to hang out with you guys up at Stan's place, and
I was so excited when we landed. Brian was like, "Oh, the Aumans here." I was like, "The Aumans are here!"
Yeah, I was like, "Those are my friends." Like, I need backup because I don't know what I'm going into hanging out with Stan. Because I mean, like for real, Stan he's a cowboy, dude. Like he's got outdoor couches that just stand out there. And he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go watch a movie outside." I'm like, "You bring these couches in, right?" He's like, "No, these are the outdoor couches." And then I'm like, But you take them in. He's like, no. And I'm like, are you sure there's not like a raccoon living in these things? I just wish that people could visualize the scene, Caleb. Like, it's very like,
it's river life, man. It's just river life.
But it was so fun. He let us ride his 4-wheelers, and that was the first time I had been on a 4-wheeler in 15 years. And then Caleb, when he invited us down, he's like, hey, dude, we can go like ride 4-wheelers. Is yours in yet? I go, no. Like, I'm still waiting on my Polaris that I put a deposit down at the time of this recording. And Caleb was like, well, we got 3 4-wheelers. You want to go for a ride? I'm like, absolutely. So they took us through, how many acres is that property, Caleb?
150.
Yeah, 150 somewhere.
150 acre property. So it's like a mountain. I don't know. How would you describe it? Like a valley, like at these ridges on both sides.
Sure. Yeah.
And beautiful like flat land. But then you go in these ridges and there's like oil well pumping stations up in the woods. And he's like,
oil wells. Yeah.
Oil well. It was crazy.
We thought it was so cool. We've never seen anything like that.
I'm like, there's an oil well. These people are like preppers, dude. You know? And he's like, yeah, they'll come in and like log the trees and all this stuff. And so we started taking the 4-wheelers up the hills. And I'm like, and literally the other side is a ravine. I mean, it's like, Brittany's shaking her head right now. It's like 100 feet down. And we're going up. And I'm like, Caleb, what if we fall off the side of the mountain? He's like, don't worry, the trees will catch you. I'm like, oh, okay.
I mean, eventually one will grab.
So we were going up all these mountains and stuff. It was so beautiful up there.
It was gorgeous.
I was like, this is going to be our future. Like, we're going to be rich like the Aumans one day. Like, have all these 4-wheelers.
I laughed because like it's so hilly up there. I was like, they just bought 3 acres of flat property.
We don't do any hills by my house. Like, people are always like, why aren't any of your lawns like on hills? I'm like, we don't do hills for like safety and practicality. I'm like, I don't do hills. And over where we're at right now, it's like the country San Francisco. It's like hills and mountains and stuff. And
we have hills by us, but not like that.
The hilly San Francisco.
That's funny.
But it's really pretty, beautiful area. Yeah, a lot of horse farms, a lot of barns.
Yep. That's Hocking County, Ohio for you.
Hocking County.
Yeah, Hocking County, the beautiful Hocking Hills region, yes.
Hocking Hills.
Gorgeous.
It is really pretty over here. Well, we don't have really any agenda with this podcast. We're just kind of spitballing. But I'm just like, I'm going through my mind right now, like 3 or 4 times we almost died on the trails. And I'm like, oh no. But we had some questions that Brittany did a cool Instagram, like one of those ask questions swipe up posts. And so Brittany had questions that your guys' audience asked us. I don't know how we get a guest interview and then we start doing the talking. I'm not. So we'll play pitch and catch.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to ask how do you guys do it?
Okay, so the first question I have is, how do you deal with the worry of a single source of income from one industry?
Ooh, how do you deal with the concern with a single source of income?
Are we worried? Are you worried that Liz isn't a nurse?
Yeah. Why don't you take it away?
So, we were talking about this earlier. For me, I think you have more control over your income as a self-employed individual than you do as an employee.
Oh,
I know. I didn't know if I should say anything on the
Out the window.
Hummingbird.
I thought someone was like coming in the yard. I was like, no.
Yeah, I thought Leo or something. The neighbor was coming around.
Oh,
like,
sure.
Okay, what's up?
Squirrel. But as I was saying, like, I feel like you have more control over your income as a self-employed person than you do like a W-2 person. Somebody's not in charge of your income, both good and bad. So you know, if your kid needs braces and you need some extra money that month, then you go out and you secure more work. Nobody's going to fire you. Yes, you can make bigger mistakes, but there's also more room for you to grow your income than you ever will have as an employed person. I don't think there's anything wrong with being employed, but I would have a harder time, I think, banking on just one income as an employed person versus a self-employed person. The other thing too is it's 2020, and if you want to have more than one source of income, you can. There's Etsy, there's YouTube, there's all sorts of things that you can do. And
rental properties.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with like diversifying your income and using your business as that seed money to start those other endeavors, which was what we eventually plan on doing is getting more into real estate. And
that was always the plan. Like I was like, I want hotels and I want restaurants.
I think people get caught up as a self-employed individual. Like you make that your identity. Like I mow lawns, I'm a landscaper, this is what I do. And you make that the only thing that you do. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is okay to use that as seed money. You don't have to completely sell out to your own business and make that your only avenue of income.
Right.
Well,
That's like your gateway.
Yeah, it's your gateway.
Well, I look at Troy Clogg and like Corey Ballard, like, okay, well, they've started lawn care landscaping companies, but then they own, shops, and then they like sublease out those spaces, or they own yards, like landscape supply yards. Like Troy Clogg, he owns Great Deal Products, right? So he's in the industry, right? Like that's why I always joke, like we're not entrepreneurs, we're launchpreneurs. We're not like lawn care owners, we're launchpreneurs. So to me, that just means like, dude, it's okay to own multiple businesses. I love what you said with if you're a lawn care guy, like you run a lawn care business, you think that's who you are. Because everybody, like if you go around town and you go meet somebody at a restaurant or you go meet somebody at a wedding and they say, what do you do? And they say like, I'm an engineer. It's like their identity is in their career.
Yeah, I've never really gotten that. It's kind of sad. It's, there's nothing wrong with asking a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? But that's not their identity. They're their own.
Your profession is not like who you are.
That's not who you are. Yeah.
Like you can be an entrepreneur, but like, it's like, oh, I'm a hardscaper. Well, okay. Well, like, no, you have a hardscaping business, but like, who are you? Like, are you a philanthropist? Are you a serial entrepreneur? Are you a capitalist? Are you a patriot? Are you like, there's other monikers that describe who you are. And people usually pigeonhole that into what their profession is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an engineer. I'm like, really? You saw yourself as an engineer at 7 years old? Aren't you like a cowboy, like a fun, free-spirited, like, make things happen kind of a person? And that's okay. Like, so like, and this is stuff that we learned along the way. It wasn't like...
It was, we didn't by choice. Like, it was always in our plans to have us both, like, with just the one source of income, but we didn't plan on it happening as quickly as it did. I was actually laid off, and then we took the winter and made the decision, yep, this is what we're going to do.
It was like 3 years ago.
And it was a lot of pressure at first, but some people succeed under pressure and some people fail, and you just have to know yourself. If you're not comfortable with it, there's nothing wrong with having like a job. It just wasn't for us.
I'll also say like, okay, well, even if you have like a lawn care company, it's not really like a single source of income. Like I might have one business, but I have like 80 sources of income because I've got 80 customers. So I feel like if I lose, COVID is a great litmus, a stress test, right? Like if you have 100 customers and you lost 5% or 10% of your business, you lose 5 or 10 customers. Okay, well, you still have 90% of your, customer base, and let's say 90% of your income, if it was like very proportional. Okay, cool. But if you have a job and if you lose, your job, well, you just lost 100% of your income. Yeah. So like I don't look at it as like I got one business, although I got like one, tax return number, one EIN. Okay, cool. But really I have 100 customers. To me, I have 100 sources of income.
And there's other opportunities within those customers too, where you can cross sell their products like an aeration, overseed, fall cleanup, spring cleanup, so it's not just, to me, it's more secure than having even 2 jobs. If both you and your husband work, he's an engineer and you're a nurse. Well, he could get fired tomorrow. You could get laid off too at the same time. We saw that growing up in 2008 in Ford country when those layoffs started happening and, the economy started crashing. I saw my friends, their parents both were laid off and they lost their homes. And that wasn't just one friend. So I always thought I felt more secure with even just the one income being self-employed.
Well, when we were trying to climb out of debt, like, we were doing aerations, we were doing fertilizations. We did the whole lawn care scheme. And we're like, if we do 20 properties, that's an extra $2,000 we can use to pay this down.
100%.
And then once we got to the point where like, no, let's try, like once you get to whatever goal you have, then you can kind of specialize in whatever you want.
Right.
100%.
Right.
But you're right. You can sell as much as you want to sell.
There's so much more opportunity to pivot with your business than you would ever in a job.
Like I sold containers. Like I would build containers and like sell them to clients that
all the hustles
didn't want to do it themselves.
Well, like we have friends that make that's the beanbag.
That's a great idea. Actually, it's so cute.
It was really cool, by the way. It was a neat.
It was fun. I
we didn't do a whole lot of it. We made a fair amount. It was neat. Yeah, Britt would just she'd buy all the plants and find a unique planter and pre-package a thing and put an email blast out.
$80
and then people would be like, I forget what the price point. Yeah, it was a decent price point. And it was like,
I like bulk order the containers on Amazon. And
that just sounds fun to me.
Well, I watch Graham Stephan, he's like a finance YouTube channel, and he always says, and I've heard so many people say this, like Gary Vee, like if you work 8 to 5, dude, like from 6 to midnight, that's 6 hours. That's almost like whole extra work day. And like the sad reality, and I don't judge, but like most people, they go watch sports or they go veg or they just don't really utilize that time.
Right. And that's want to be out in front of the TV.
Yeah, they want to be out in front of the TV or go play golf, and that's totally fine too. But whether you have like the immediate urgency, like you said, Britt, of like your finances suck and you want to fix that, let alone your finances don't stink, but you want extra to pay for vacation or buy a 4-wheeler or something stupid or a camper.
You want a good life for your family.
Yeah,
like 4-wheelers aren't stupid. How dare you?
That is a prerequisite. How dare you?
How dare you? That's
like a prerequisite, But so many people don't utilize like the 6 to midnight time, or like I look at it like 6 to 1 a.m. Like, what are you doing with that extra 6 or 7 hours? So I don't know. I think, is it risky to have like, people always say like diversify your investments, but nobody says diversify your income.
Right.
And it's like, I'd rather have 10 sources of income or 80 customers or 3 or 4 small businesses, but all right, good question.
Yeah.
I have a question. You looked at him when we said something about your identity. You said like, you're not a contractor, like you're an owner of a company that does contracting. And then you like looked at Caleb. Was that something that you were thinking about or talking about?
No, when we were talking about like kids and, kid doesn't grow up at 8 years old, they don't say they want to be an engineer. They want to be a cowboy or a cop. And Zeke started preschool last week, and you had to fill like an about me. And we asked him, we were like, okay, it has like, how old are you? What's your favorite food? What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Zeke wants to be the master of functionality.
The master of functionality?
And that is what his paper says.
I don't even know what that means. That's awesome.
That's so much smarter than anything.
The master of functionality. That's like Elon Musk, dude. Like, that's like some genius level stuff.
I don't know about that because it's also a machine that he saw that has like 8,000 different attachments for it.
Okay.
So I don't know if he thinks he wants to be a machine I don't know. It's weird.
But the machine has like a chipper, a stump grinder, like a snowblower.
Like a Swiss Army knife of equipment.
Yeah. It's like some Canadian machine.
It's called a sidewalk tractor. Yeah. But then you get all these attachments.
Yeah.
And that's what he wants to be when he grows up. So
we probably ought to have him elaborate on it. Like, do you actually want to become a robot when you're older?
He can identify as one, just so you know, in 2020.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Exactly. And I tell you, you guys were talking about that, and it got I've been quiet over here because I'm like doing a ton of thinking. You guys have really got my gears turning on some things. And so I'm going into, like, I was going to warn Britt, like, I'm going into this, like,
he goes into like this coma.
This turtle mode of like, my gears are just grinding, man, just thinking about stuff. But you were talking about the identity, and like, that's such an interesting thing. I've been thinking like 2 directions on that of like, man, what I do is what I am. And at the same time, but like, and you mentioned like philanthropist, like, that is something I definitely want to be known as at some point, so it's, man, I don't know, just my brain. I'm just going turtle mode here. I'm like, just thinking.
It is interesting because, like, I don't know when that started, when we started identifying ourselves with what we do to make money. Like, we don't identify ourselves with what we make for dinner. We don't identify ourselves for, like, I guess your identity is wrapped up in some material things. But really, like, I don't know.
Most guys, they wrap their identity up in making money, right? So when somebody gets laid off, the sad stat is like, some people go in depression, they cry, and way worse scenarios, obviously, right? But if your identity wasn't caught up in how much money you make, I think you'd be able to storm some of those difficult seasons of your life a lot easier. So like if you're making $90,000, you get laid off from that job and you go into depression, or somebody wants to commit suicide, unfortunately, like real stuff. If your identity wasn't tied to making money, you would be far less risk, right? But unfortunately, what do we always see? If I'm not making money, I'm a loser. As a guy, especially. If I'm not providing. Well, it doesn't mean you're a loser. It just means you're in a different season. Something happened, you got knocked down, you can get back up. But again, like I said this on a couple other podcasts. I wish that, how old is Zeke? He's 5? 4. I wish that 4 they'd have on the paper, like, when you grow up, how do you want to live? Not like, what do you want to do? Because I keep trying to combat that. And
that is one thing that I thought when I met Brian, I always thought that was really interesting. That's always the way that you've like thought about stuff, like talking future. It's like you guys know, like we're goal focused, and it was always, how do we want to live? And let's work backwards from that. So it wasn't, I want to go and make, $80,000 this year. It was, no, where do I want to live? What do I want to drive? What do I want to be able to provide for my future family? And okay, then we work backwards. How much do we need to make? Okay, how much business is that?
What other,
like, I always thought that was really interesting. Like,
well, I mean, again, like everybody's like,
no one really looks at it that way. They're always like, I'll feel successful at 200,000. You're like, that's the goal.
Well, it's like, if you want to, I joked on other podcasts, if you want to be a jet set and rock star millionaire and go to the Turks and Caicos and drive Ferraris, but then your guidance counselor is like, well, you should be a mechanical engineer. And mechanical engineers are very important people in life. And you might make $50,000, $70,000, maybe $100,000. Let's just say you make $100,000, but there's a dissonance there, right? Is a mechanical engineer going to be flying to the Turks and Caicos and flying private jets? Probably not. Not any mechanical engineer I know, unfortunately. Unless he owns the company.
Crazy, like, consulting company of mechanical engineers.
Maybe. Yeah. But like, so you kind of like get, I don't want to say wrong advice, but the questions that are asked to you at a young age are already wrong questions. And here's the even more worse thing, is that it comes from an authoritative figure that you learn from, that you think is asking the right questions, right? It's not like what you know hurts you. It's what you think you know, that you believe to be true, which is actually based on like false information. Yeah. That you've been running around your whole life, guiding your life. And then you realize, whoa, it's like this like Matrix, like Morpheus and, Neo stuff. You're like, whoa, like this, you can bend the spoon. You
it's
know
like
that kind of stuff.
You see a lot too, like when you go to your guidance counselor and you take that test that they make everybody take to see, what are you supposed to be? Yeah. Well, that's fine for some people, but not everybody is process focused. Some people are results focused. So if you have to love what you do every single day, then that test is probably absolutely valid. Like, you love animals, you want to be around animals every single day. That's cool. But if you just care about the results of what your job's going to get you, then like it's a completely different way of thinking. And so I think, that's where your identity, I think, gets wrapped up in, I'm a landscaper. And that might be because you absolutely love it. And so that's different. But if you are results focused, it's just a means to an end. It's a tool.
Caleb's guidance counselor kind of failed him in high school. I would say.
What did he say?
I don't know if failed me. It's hilarious because she was like, I told her, you do like the one-on-one thing in your senior year, maybe I think it is, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I told her, it's like, I really don't know about college. I already don't like school as it is, which I enjoyed learning and stuff like that. That wasn't an issue, but school was, to me, it was a big waste of time just because whatever.
Yeah.
I could go into whole things on that. But like, I told her, like, I don't know about college. I don't know that that's like for me and stuff like that. And she's like, well, that's okay because we need people to work in the factories and stuff like that. It was the most passive aggressive, like condescending thing ever. Maybe she didn't mean it that way, to be fair to her. I don't know. But it was just like, and at the same time, my lawn care company I had already had my lawn care company going, and I was just like, in my head, I called her a bad word, but I was like, you jerk. I'm like, no, I'm going to build something.
Yeah.
And it was, it was just funny because it was like, but that was the mentality. It's also got us where we're at now with like the college mindset, the college bubble and stuff like that. It's like, you have to go to school to do better, and you have to go to school. It's a kind of a failed old mindset that was, I guess, kind of a reality, but it's not so much anymore.
Yeah.
But she was part of that generational thinking of like, if you don't go to college, you're going to amount to nothing. And
I dig it.
Would you consider that motivation to succeed, or where did you go from there?
I call that righteous anger.
Yeah, right. It was.
I'm for real.
At the time, I was just kind of like, I guess. I'll show you. It was kind of one of those things, but it was just like, I don't think it has to be that way, lady. Right. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, it wasn't one of those things that fueled me much. It was just kind of, that's probably part of why I just hated the school system was like,
sure.
And by the way, shout out to Bloom Carroll's a great school, by the way, great faculty and staff and all that, but just the institution in general, like school is a large picture. It wasn't like, cause I was very entrepreneurial minded at the moment. And as I still am, of course, but it was just like, it wasn't catering to, and not that I expect that, but it just wasn't like, there was no discussion about like starting your own business or how you would do it. And like, we were in Future Business Leader, I was in Future Business Leaders Club or something like that. And we still dabbled around like even the concept, but at the same time, like it's 17, what the hell's anybody? Kind of thing. So it's like, I got to keep it all in context and kind of play devil's advocate there. But it was just an interesting.
Think about how long this thought process has been going on. Caleb's grandpa's 100 years old.
Yeah.
And he was going to school for finance.
Seriously?
He wasn't doing very well or something like this.
Yeah,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but he was going to school for finance, wasn't doing well, took a test, and they said he should be
a farmer.
A farmer or something.
Right.
But then he found out. But then he somehow found out about a forestry opportunity. He was real big into forestry. But then the war broke out, and World War II broke out, and that changed that directive. But after
those
school,
tests have been around for that long, trying to dictate what you should do, just based on a set of questions.
That's crazy.
But he went to school. His grandpa, because they were Depression era farmers.
Yeah.
And his grandpa was that'd be my great grandpa. His dad was pushing him to go to school.
Sure.
And it was pushing him into finance, something that would really pay off. But grandpa hated it. He's like, this is not for me. I can't pass a test. And, all this stuff. It just wasn't his thing.
It might have been good advice in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But
I think there was a period where that really totally made sense, right?
Yeah, 50 to the 80s. Air conditioned, office instead of being in the factory. Sure. Like that was the getting a college degree was $1,500. Now it's $1,500 a credit hour.
Well, it's also interesting. Like supply and demand is the only. Like college is the only thing that apparently doesn't comply to, because everybody will tell you to go to college. But how useless does that make your degree if everybody else has a similar degree?
I said a stat on one of the other podcasts, and we'll go to the next question because I don't want to spend all day.
I was going to say, man, there's so many things I want to comment on that alone. But
I heard a friend of ours. He said that he's in sales. He's a global business company that he works for. And he said for every person that graduates with a business degree in the U.S., there's 30 more people that graduate from India with a business degree at the same time. Half of them have their masters, and they also have to learn English as a second language. Right. Because of a global landscape, a global supply chain. So it's like, you think you're a good business student, but dude, there's people in like India, China, and Japan that are fighting for the same jobs that they can telecommute, Zoom, email. I mean, so it's I don't know, man. And
they want it.
It's
like a difference. They're willing to work 18 to 20 hours as a whole. I would say nearly as opposed to us who've had it very comfortable. Generally speaking, right?
Absolutely, yeah. All right, next question. Brittany's on the final line here. Here we go.
To summarize this, do you think it's better or is it a good idea to replace a secretary with your wife? So would a wife make a good secretary?
For me personally, I mean, you got to have those conversations like, what's the roles of the company? Like, what can you be good at? So if the secretary, in my estimation, is doing like payroll or bookkeeping or this or that, and she's just like quarterbacking like essential things, but like non-essential things for that the owner should be doing, and you can pay her like, $12, $15, $18 an hour, and you're able to get freed up to go do higher income producing work, and you can still keep a delta. Sure, absolutely. For me personally, like, if you don't enjoy doing it, get rid of doing it. Like, have somebody else doing it.
That's always been our thing. If you don't enjoy doing it and your time could be allocated elsewhere where it's going to be turning a profit bigger than what you would be doing the menial tasks, then delegate it out. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Housekeeper.
Yes, I am. We actually
talk about that. You guys picked up a housekeeper, right? It's been game changer.
I've been really big about that this year. If there's something that I don't enjoy doing, which makes me not like my job,
amen.
I found someone that can do it 80% as well as I can.
Amen.
Yes, that's the
as
thing.
long as done is done.
Yeah.
And so our nanny, she helps out in the office doing the things that I don't like doing in the office while the kids are sleeping.
Sure.
And then I hired a cleaning lady because I'm the worst cleaner in the world. And I talked to Liz about that yesterday.
Yeah.
I can just tell, like, probably just from looking at you when you talk about it, like, you look so happy, and I can only imagine like how much peace that's given in your household that frees up you guys and your mental capacity to do other things in your business.
Yeah.
It's just a weight off your shoulders.
Just gets cleaned.
That's always a good thing.
Well, I'm just not worried about it all the time.
Yeah.
And
it takes
I'm
out
a better
the mental.
mom because of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not always worried, or I'm not spending 5 hours on Saturday morning cleaning.
Sure.
I can go do something with them.
Absolutely.
Right. Yep.
And so the kids are incredibly important to us, and I don't want to miss their time being little, so I'm delegating things to make me a better mom.
Sure.
Yep.
I mean, look, the bottom line is, like, in the beginning, we did everything. I did everything. Liz did everything. We did it. We just,
like everyone does.
Everybody does.
You wear too many hats.
You wear 9 hats. And I did a podcast episode, I don't know, it was like probably like 95, 6, 7. It was like, it's called Be a Quitter. It was a really good podcast to like teach you guys how to like start getting rid of the stuff that you shouldn't be doing, because you got to grow the vision of the company, recruit, and make sales. Like, that's what organizations do. And if you're not growing the company, like building branding and vision, you're not recruiting people or making sales. Like, almost everything else you can hire out. I mean, even the technical aspects of like cutting grass or putting in retaining walls. I mean, like, but is somebody going to take the same level of responsibility selling a $40,000 job to move the needle forward as much as you?
Right.
Probably not, unless there's a really hefty commission structure.
Right.
You know, so.
I will say from another perspective too, some couples aren't meant to work together. Their marriage would be better not working together, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
I get a lot of guys, especially at like GIE and like the events that we go to. Well, how did Brian get you on board? Like, how did Brian sucker you into this, basically? Like, why are you okay with this? And my wife
seems
isn't.
to be a really common theme.
Yeah. And if your wife has a career and she doesn't want to be a part of the business, there's nothing wrong with that. And like, if that's what she wants to do, then that's where you're at. You just have to recognize it and hire the secretary. Like, I think, you know, the best thing Brian did was allow me to be as involved as I wanted to whenever I wanted to. It didn't, you know, I didn't just one day wake up and be like, you know, I'm going to help you take over the business. It was given slowly and on my pace and my schedule, but you involved me with all the major decisions in the business because that impacted our life together.
Yeah. Let's press on that a little bit more with you, because everybody was asked, what does Liz do? What does Liz do? And we were, and Brittany was saying,
I don't know what I do.
Well, you keep I always say you keep my life together so I can run 100 miles up front, because on one of our previous podcasts, I was talking about like, we have different roles. Like your roles aren't my roles aren't your roles.
And what's interesting too is, to your credit, Brittany, I think you're way more involved with like legit business than I have ever been. So everybody's role is going to look different. It depends on the person, your marriage, and like how, like I'm not a detailed person. I would be terrible to look at our books. Like it's not, we would fail.
Yeah. We had a really good conversation about last night. That was really inspiring. So.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like I'm able to go 100 miles an hour out front because you're taking care of the house, the food, the clothes, and of course, you know, one day, you know, hopefully a family, right? Like that's the next season that we want to go into, is you being able to, you know, take care of the whole house, right? And so I want to give you the freedom to be a 100% all-in mom, which has kind of been your dream. Now it took us like 5 to 7 years to get there, right? But I want to make sure that we have systems and companies and structures and organization, as simple as it is or as complex as it is, to that when you go into your phase of your life, like you're helping me to get mine and I'm helping you to get yours. And so I want you to be an all-in mom, to be able to focus, to not have to worry about money or this or that. You know what I mean? I
think like there are seasons to life, and there might be a season where a husband and wife team is able to be, you know, working together 100% of the time. And then there's going to be seasons where they're not, or it's going to be shifted where like you have your nanny who's, you know, is taking care of your kids so you can be out in the field. But I'm sure when they were babies, it wasn't that way. Like there's different seasons to life.
A cradle in the office next to me, and I would bounce it with my foot as I would type. And that was important to me though.
Absolutely.
I wanted to be a mom, but I wanted to be a working mom at the same time.
Very cool.
Being an entrepreneur allowed us to do that.
Amen.
I took the best of both
worlds. I could not do
worlds.
that from my insurance job in Columbus.
No.
And so we've been able to watch all of our babies.
What's your guys' take? Because the question is, when you hire out a secretary or help instead of having your wife do it? So what are you guys doing to mitigate responsibilities at your level? Because your guys' company is way bigger than ours.
Well, like to go back to that though.
Besides the awesome cleaning lady.
Yeah, awesome cleaning.
Praise
I will
Jesus.
refer her to
Praise
anyone.
Jesus.
You should have a cleaning lady.
And our nanny.
Our nanny is great.
God,
that's awesome.
She comes to our house. If we have to go like to a stormwater job at 5 a.m, she will show up at the house at 5 a.m.
That's amazing.
And she will stay till 7 o'clock at night.
People like that are gold.
And I don't have to check in on the kids. She'll send me pictures of the kids. So it's like the coolest thing.
That's great.
But when we did our podcast with Stan, he was very clear with us. He says, you cannot make your wife work in the business. If she's not asking to,
right.
if she's not curious about the business, she doesn't want to be in it.
Right, right.
And this is not for everyone. And I don't know if Caleb ever asked me to be in the business.
I don't know how that transpired really, because we just started working together as I
when
was
you
like...
said that Brian started to give you ask if you wanted to, I don't think Caleb ever...
It wasn't just emerging, because you and I were just starting to kind of work together. Our relationship, how it started out, to
How old were you guys, by the way? You guys were young and dating.
24. I was 22. He was 24.
I can't remember anything, so I looked to her for that.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But we both started to merge together, and then just things just kind of fell into place. And I was thinking about to talk to guys about how to get their spouse encouraged into the company or whatever. And an approach might be to, and somebody was saying hire out your weaknesses and stuff like that, but just to maybe encourage, if they want to try to encourage their spouse into the company or whatever, maybe a thing to approach would be find something that they enjoy doing.
Right.
Maybe they something that really turns their gears is client acquisition, so they know they can figure out the Facebook ads, and so they just do marketing with the company, or they would just do Like actually scheduling for projects and for people, because they're really detail oriented. They really like scheduling and ordering materials and stuff for jobs. And just that one task, that's all they do at the company. Otherwise, they're going to hate the company. And so that might be a thought of like just to kind of ease people if they want. And then again, like Liz said, or maybe it's you too, Britt, like don't push them in anything they don't want to do with the company, because they will hate it and they'll hate you, and it'll be a rough go.
And a lot, you work together. And that goes home too.
Yeah,
and
I was going to say.
You have to be able to separate that.
Yeah.
And it's hard on Dave.
That's hilarious. Comedy hour here with the Fullerton.
It's unfiltered.
It's so hard.
It is. It's so freaking hard.
As the revolver gets put on the table, as Caleb's like spinning it. Like, okay.
Well, we have times where we'll go out to eat, and I'm like, look, like we can't talk about the business. We can't talk about the YouTube channel. Like, we are just married right now, and like we just need a date for an hour, and then we can go back to it. Or we have like a saying, there's like, we will say just no more words. Like I'm at capacity today with work. Like, no, because when you're working a traditional job, your day ends and you go home, and like you might bring some of it home with you, but not as much as you do when you're self-employed. And so you're, 8-hour day, whatever. And then you come home and it's 14 hours later, you're still talking about like work. Like sometimes you just got to tap out and like recognizing when the other one's had enough, I think is hard for us because we're both very type A. And he's like, so, like giving them that grace and space to say like, I've had enough for today. Like no more words. Like we got to shut it down, or you're going to drive yourself insane.
Right.
It's a lot easier said than
done.
Able to
take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Self-awareness is so big. Like recognizing that and being able to recognize that is such a big deal. Otherwise you're like, why are we fighting? Or like, just, and it's a basic thing, but a lot of people overlook it, and hell I do too. But like, just the self-awareness of like, I'm being a jerk because I'm stressed about
and
work.
Like sometimes we'll argue over the dumbest things. Like I want to change the colors of the folder, or like the colors of our work reports. Like years ago when we had paper work reports.
I was such an idiot.
I was
such a hard idiot.
If we put all of the lawn care work reports in a yellow sheet and all the landscape ones on green, then I can separate them really easy and bill out that way. He's like, no, we always do white.
No, the most dangerous phrase in English language is we've always done it this way.
Or you never, never and always.
Oh, God, dude. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you like a lot of times we'll have like young kids that are dating someone and they'll message us and they're like, how do I get my girlfriend involved? Like,
nope. In my opinion, my opinion is my opinion, but until there is rings on both fingers, you do not.
Man, you're old school.
Like,
That's old school traditional.
I'm pretty
stuff,
old
right?
school traditional. I recognize that not everybody's that way, but I think you would have to have very, very clear expectations and things laid out, and legally wise too. Like you need to have some stuff in place.
Yeah.
That could get messy very quickly.
You better believe it.
I think the last thing I'll say on it is that you have to, if you want to get your spouse involved, by the way, husband and wife, the girl with the boyfriend, because, girls can own companies too, obviously.
Well, that wasn't to say I did help you with some stuff with the business when we were dating, but it was never enough to where I would be like, this is mine too, if that makes sense.
I think more of the question is like, how do you get your girl? How could I get my girlfriend interested so she wants to be part of it?
To figure out we're on the same trajectory, right?
Well, for me, my answer is like, you got to have a vision for her. Like you said, what role can she fill? What role can she do? What role does she want to do? Like, I got a job interview. The best question to ask at a job interview after they're done interviewing you is you ask one question: how do you best see me fitting into your organization? Like if you're doing a job interview, you're spending 20 minutes selling them, right? Like they're asking you all these questions, like about you, and you're like, man, these questions suck because they're so penetrating, it's awkward, and you don't know. You hope you get it right. Instead of like them asking you questions for 20 minutes, which is fine, you just end it with, because you got to control the conversation. You say, how can I best fit into your organization? And you put it back on them. And then you let that guy talk for 20 minutes selling himself about how to use you in his company.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's the same thing with a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Like, how do you best see working with me and my company in the future? But then number two, if we accomplish this, and this benchmark, it's going to provide this X, Y, and Z lifestyle.
Going back to the process versus results oriented.
Yeah.
Like
that's how I look at it.
I think dating as an entrepreneur is a little bit different than just dating with like a job, because your business is part of your life. It's a very big part of your life. It's not just like something you can shut out. It's a lifestyle. Yeah. And so we had those conversations earlier on, like, is this even something that like I wanted to be a part of? Like, do I have a natural like draw to entrepreneurship? Like, I think somebody who needs that safety and security in their mind of having a traditional paycheck, maybe if you're early dating and they're really not okay with it right off the bat, then that's probably not who you need to be dating. Like if you're looking for somebody who's going to have your back in your business, like that's not to say that every relationship you have to have these things. You just have to recognize that you're probably not going to have that working relationship in your marriage, as well. Like, you're not necessarily going to put a ring on her finger and she's going to be all about the business. Right. It's not how that works.
Right.
And also early on, tying in goals. Like, we've always had goals together, and he's always explained, well, if we do X, Y, and Z, then this is what this is how we're going to get to this goal, and this is how we're going to get to this goal, and these certain requirements of the business. Once we match that, then we'll get here. And so
goals and rewards.
Yeah, and it wasn't just his ideas, because I think that's hard too when you have a business and it's yours. You have all these ideas for your business.
Yeah,
letting the walls down and have somebody else attach their goals to your business too is completely different.
Well, I'll also say that sometimes guys, we err on the side of being so future focused. We're like, oh man, 20 years from now, this thing will be whatever, figure out your end goal, right? But then you just expect the wife or the girlfriend to
fall in line.
They'll just fall in line
funny
for
because
15
at that time,
years.
you probably have an old mower, a crappy trailer.
Yeah.
And you're like, I see this. I'm going to have a $2 million lawn care company. And the girl's like,
And then you expect her to hold on tight for 20 years. And she's like, what do I get along the way?
Hop in the truck, honey.
And this same vision casting goes for like your people. If you're trying to attract and retain like good people, you've got to sell them too on where you're going as a company, that we're not just going to be a Mo Blow & Co. guy forever.
Absolutely.
Like our goal is within 3 years to have you as like a crew manager, with a company truck, and and so selling your people the same, you're getting people to buy in, right?
Yep.
One thing too, I just wanted total disclosure too. Britt and I did the business startup thing the wrong way, according to myself.
Total opposite
even.
of what you said.
Well, no, really? And she's totally right. And it's totally goes against anything. But we were at a point where it's like, so Britt owned the new company before we were married, and like midway even through our dating. And like,
I mean, sometimes it's just that way.
No, but it wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the circumstances Caleb had.
Well, so this is where it comes. We both were putting up with like not making any money at the time and having no money. Like, we were on the same trajectory. Like, we knew we were very in sync with each other, which is super important. And the argument was, and the joke was, and I say this all the time, was,
whoa, hold on just a minute. Time out. I've got to jump in here real quick because this conversation is giving me a flashback to many of the mistakes that I've made in marriage. Marty here, and I really do wish that Martha and I could have heard something like this when we were young. The worst fight, the absolute worst fight that we ever had resulted when I came home from a hard day of work at the radio station, and I told her that just once it would be nice if the stove was as hot as the television. Well, that boneheaded comment cost me a trip to the beach, including something they called a swim with the dolphins experience. And what else? Oh, yeah, the loss of the remote control for an entire month. So, guys, I am begging you, be nice to your wife unless you just want to spend an entire month watching Christmas shows on Hallmark. And it was July. Who does that?
At Exmark, we've poured decades of leading-edge engineering and old-fashioned work ethic into our Laser Z, the pioneering commercial zero-turn rider more landscape pros trust. So now you can experience cut quality, performance, comfort, durability, and reliability beyond your wildest dreams. Stop by your local dealer or visit exmark.com to experience an Exmark Laser Z and the attractive financing offers available now.
Everybody I know that's got an Exmark loves it. Just remember, love your wife more than your Exmark. Before we dive back into the program, if you're about ready to start with fall cleanups, get some training. Brian offers that at Launchpreneur Academy. Learn how you can bid on price cleanups, learn a positive, efficient workflow, how to perform a cleanup. That is all a part of the Getting Started with Spring and Fall Cleanups training program waiting on you right now, plus a lot more. Now that we are into October, new modules are dropping almost every day at launchpreneuracademy.com.
We both were putting up with like not making any money at the time and having no money. Like, we were on the same trajectory. Like, we knew we were very in sync with each other, which is super important. And the argument was, and the joke was, and I say this all the time, was, if the people are like, oh, what if you guys broke up? What happened to, and we didn't really own anything to speak of, but it's just like, what happens if you guys break up?
Sure.
And the joke was, we're going to fight over who has to take the damn company, because neither of us want it right now. It was like so
wasn't
rough.
making much money anyway.
Yeah, it was just so rough, But that was the joke. But of course, like we were both like, parallel or we were both merging into where the company was going, but like that. But there's a huge risk doing that. So guys and gals doing that, like
we don't tell anyone to do that.
Well, I think
I never would advise that ever.
We've been friends for 20 years.
Okay, so that's a little bit different than, hey, I'm in high school, I just started dating this girl.
Right.
Like
100%.
that to me is different. Like you guys probably knew at that point that you were eventually working towards marriage. I think a lot of kids are just dating to date right now. And if you were just dating to date somebody, that's kind of what I mean, that she has no business in your business.
Yeah,
like,
it's a little early to test the waters.
Yeah, but if you were dating to get married and you plan on proposing and like this is a long-term thing, I think that's different than.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I wasn't trying to make you walk it back or anything.
No.
Because you're totally right. You're totally right.
I'm just thinking of like.
But Britt and I's situation
still an
was so
acceptance
screwy.
thing from your girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever, because they have to understand the time commitment. And when you're early in your business, and even like we still have a crazy time commitment for our business. And if your girlfriend's mad that you're not at dinner every night at 6:00, it's like,
it's probably not.
Well, we should move on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not gonna work.
Well, it's funny because you guys were asking us the other day, like, what time do you guys do dinner? And you guys like 5:00 people, 8:00 people. I'm like, dude,
all of the above.
Yeah, I go yes. She's like, what does that mean? I go yes, because it could be at 5:30, it could be at 9:30. We went to dinner last night to Smith and Lewinsky's. Is that the place? Super nice steakhouse. A really really cool time. We had dinner at like 9:00. We didn't probably get served till like 9:30 when you really think about it. And I go, it's not uncommon for us to eat dinner at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, or sometimes you'll even eat dinner, babe, at 5, 6 o'clock, and then I'll get home and I'm like, all right, I'm going to B-dubs at 9 o'clock, because you're like, I don't eat after 7. Okay, God bless you. And I'm like, well, I'm hungry, and so like sometimes there's sit down meals, sometimes I'm going to get Jimmy John's. It's a different lifestyle when you're an entrepreneur,
and there's different seasons to it too. Like
sure.
You need to get a food sponsor.
I know, dude. Firehouse, Jimmy John's.
Jimmy John's actually sent him a couple of gift cards once, very very early on, because he was always there.
We're trying to get Chick-fil-A, man, but Chick-fil-A worldwide. Can you imagine Brian sent at Chick-fil-A?
We would be fat.
We can sell the Lord's chicken. What do you got? Some other good questions? Yeah, well, Teddy gets the grilled nuggets.
Okay,
so
someone wants to know how Brian and Caleb look so dapper all the time.
Oh, good question. That's a great question.
Yeah, no,
wow,
the internet's a hoax.
You can see Brian right now.
I asked that question. That was my question.
Oh yeah.
I did.
Stop.
I swear to God.
Okay, I will let Caleb answer this one because I've talked a lot. My wife wants to help with the business, but we have 3 little ones. How do you manage?
Ooh, good question.
I don't know. That harkens back to what we just spent like 20 minutes talking about. It's like everybody's got to be on the same page. We got to know where we're going financially, and like what shortcomings financially we're going to have for the near future, and like how solid or unsolid is a single stream of income. And
bring this down just a little bit, because you're talking to your nose.
Sorry,
there you go.
Cool.
Look at the coffee.
The delegation.
I know.
The delegation's important.
Like coffee slurping.
I think if you need to know what part of raising a child you want to be part of.
Sure.
Like, do you want to be home with them all the time?
Yep.
Do you well then you need
Oh,
a
that's
nanny
the
then.
I understand now.
So
I'm sorry.
How do we raise kids, stay involved with the kids, and still run a business at the same time?
Where we're at with the company is somewhere I've been working on getting to we have been working to get to for a long time, is having, guys in the field that are competent and capable of running their own projects. So for us this year, project managers has been a big thing for us. So it sounds way fancier than it is potentially, but our guys got a considerable bump in income. Two of our guys, one Joe and
John and Bo.
John. Thank you. But their title is project manager now, so they're responsible for ordering materials, scheduling shipments of gravel and limestone and machinery, what machines they need, and they got to work together. If somebody needs the excavator, but they've got to work that out, and I'm out of it now. I don't have to mitigate.
We do everything in the office up until they show up on site.
Sure.
Yeah, and we still got to get involved somewhat, but it's still but that's been a big thing that allows us now to stay in the office to now change how we interact with the kids and stuff. And that's been a long-term goal for a while. So it's one thing if we're out producing field work ourselves, that's a whole nother ball of wax. So our company's gotten at a point where we can do this. We're in the office, the office is in the house, the shop is down the road. And so that's part of where we've been wanting to go for a long, long time. And we've hit that. We've been on the road to it. We could have done it a long time ago, but that's another whole leap of faith and all that stuff. But I would say that's kind of the, where you're at with your company is a big deal too. Being able to be home so we can run Zeke to preschool, in the morning but get back and get to work and, all that kind of stuff. So
we set priorities the kids are the most important, and we both take all the kids to school on their first day, and we both pick them up.
That's awesome.
And we both
on the first day of school.
On the first day of school. Then like for holiday parties at school, we both go to the holiday party
as much as possible. There's still days where things are sideways, and like I can't leave. I got.
It might not be important for Brian and Liz someday.
Yeah,
but that was a priority with that side.
100%.
When I remember being in school, and I was so jealous of all the other moms, and my mom worked so hard for us and gave us everything we ever wanted.
Yep.
But she was a full-time working mom.
Yep. Yep.
And I was so jealous of all the other moms that their moms came in with like cupcakes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's
well,
so
or like, dad making baseball, right? Like dad making baseball practice. Some people, some people like, I want to be there for my kids. Other people like, well, my dad wasn't there and I turned out fine. Okay. Like no right or wrong answer. You got to pick your battles and figure out what makes sense for you. Other people are like, well, I want to be the coach of my kids. Okay, cool. Like I've told Liz that, like, if I want to be, I'm not going to coach my kids because I'm a horrible coach, but I want to be involved in the team or at practices. So I have to make moves now, knowing that 6, 7, 9 years from now, like I need the money thing figured out to be able to get the time thing back to be at my kids' baseball games.
Which is the beauty of entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
You can make your schedule. You can make your dreams come true.
Yep.
And when you're working 9 to 5,
it's tough.
And you have a 30-minute commute, you can't make it to 6 o'clock baseball practice.
Amen.
Right.
Now the irony is that like I might work, in some capacity, like you said, from 7 to 3, be able to get off at 3, go hang out with my kids from 3 to 8. Kids get tired, kids, do homework or go to bed, and then I might be back in the office from 8 to 10:30.
Sure.
Like these little breaks, these little windows.
Yep.
Happens all the time in entrepreneurship. Like you go back and finish up a project or a bid or an estimate. It's just a different lifestyle. I think it provides more time and more money, and it takes a lot of extra work to do it. So this is really good. This is helpful, like pre parent advice.
Yeah. So I think the coolest.
We'll have to come back and listen to this later.
I'm taking notes. Yeah.
I think the coolest thing about just being an entrepreneur is you can make it your own.
Yeah.
Right.
Amen.
As long as I think you can figure out what is important to you, like you said, and work backwards from there. I think that's
what you guys have done with all of your goals and your whole life so far. You've worked backwards, and that's just what we did with.
Only like the last 4 years. I wish I wish these people brought these questions to me at not even 18, like 15. That would have been a lot better to do.
Okay.
Hang with Auman Landscape. We should do like a soundbite, like Auman. Give me the tractor. Give me the bobcat. Oh my gosh. Okay. You guys got to shoot a DM. Take this podcast episode if you can, guys. Put it up on Instagram stories and tag these guys. Let them know that you appreciate this whole podcast because we're just hanging here and they've just done a great job hosting us all week and it's been so much fun hanging with them. But Caleb was in the cool. We came back from dinner. I don't know if it was last night or 2 nights ago, and Caleb was doing his bobcat impression. If you guys ever watch him on Instagram, he's like bobcat. The mover, shaker, the excavator of choice. Like, do this thing.
No, what's their unreasonable expectation? It can
and they were lifting like a tiny log.
Yeah, it's like a little boulder, a little rock.
Bobcat, get your ads together. They're great machines. Get your ads together.
6 weeks from now, this episode is brought to you by Bobcat.
Yeah, that's okay.
With Caleb Auman.
I need another $5.95. So holler, Bobcat.
There you go. Have my people get in touch with your people.
Really. Yeah, Brian's the guy for that.
Oh yeah, sure.
I'll let Brian broker the deal.
Do we got some other good questions?
I do have another one.
Besides a dapper one.
Well, we'll answer that one.
There were so many of those. Yeah,
it's tough. It's
overwhelming.
Tough to do this much work and look this good.
It's not cheap or easy. We make it happen now. All right, what's up, Britt?
Okay. Who has the final say? Are you guys 50-50? Are you equally involved in equipment purchases?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I like that the girls laugh.
Yeah. Are we? Why don't you go ahead?
So we've always been pretty open about able to have conversations about it, and usually there's been very few instances where I think Brian, if it came down to it, would have the final say. And I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, especially in 2020, but that's just how it is for our marriage. And if it's not that way for you, that's fine. But we are able to have open and honest conversations about it. And I do believe if I was really struggling with something, he wouldn't pull the trigger on it if he knew it was going to disrupt our relationship in any way. I would think
it's always in the best interest of the company or our future.
I know his heart and I know where he's trying to take us, and he's never tried to make an illogical purchase. So as long as he's able to present why he's making the decision he's making, and even if I don't fully understand it or, see what he sees, as long as I know if he believes in it, then it's probably going to be okay. And
I appreciate that vote of confidence.
I know not every marriage is like that. Maybe it's weird because I am more of a control freak, but for whatever reason, I've never had trouble trusting you. Had you made silly financial decisions, it would be a different story, I think, but you've never Unless it was the one.
So you're not okay. Wait. I was like, whoa. So you basically said I've never made a bad financial choice, but then I bought a one wheel.
Not with a business, I guess. I'll say that.
That's a business write-off.
Invested in a one wheel.
I invested in a business write-off, business expense, which is the one. I bought a one wheel. If you guys don't know, it's like the XR. It's the coolest thing ever. Make fun of it all you want, dude.
Marketing in small neighborhoods. It's just gonna go.
That's how we pass off tires now.
That's what Rob's gonna trim on.
That's how Rob's gonna be trimming on it. Yeah, absolutely.
So have you seen like the big fertilizer companies? They're sending kids around on Segways and the hoverboards, and they're buzzing around neighborhoods in these freaking things.
Look,
it's crazy.
It really does make sense. I'm always wondering, like, waiting for like the OSHA is this okay people to yell at you, because like I always wonder like the legal aspect or the technical aspect, the safety aspect of it. Yeah. But I mean, like, if you have a kid passing out flyers or going door to door, like, why would you not have? What
a way to engage somebody, like a young kid. Like, hey, we'll give you a friggin' hoverboard, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sign me up.
Yeah. What about you guys? How does that work in your business and relationship?
Who gets a hoverboard?
Not me. Caleb, like Brian, he has all the vision for all this stuff, and it's hard to get on board. Like when he wanted to buy the excavator, I was like,
no.
See, I don't know that it's I don't know that it's necessarily a gender or a hierarchical. I'm trying to sound smart, like Jordan Peterson here. Like issue, it's just like who specialized. Well, just who specialized. Like, you run in things in the office and you want to get a new MacBook. I'm like, we really need a new freaking MacBook, but it's like I don't handle that crap, and I've just got to trust that she knows what's up on that end of things. Because if I would run it, guess what would happen? Repeat it 10 years ago.
Get the cheapest one or something, or
well, just like I would wreck the company if I was back in charge of the books. You know what I mean? Okay. So it's like, and possibly that too.
And by the way,
it's smoking, but it's working, right?
Yeah.
So like,
just lost all of her files from the past 10 years, but it's okay.
It's okay.
I think that's right. I think that's what's important about like when your spouse again comes on, or girlfriend or whatever you got going on, is like they're empowered in their realm to make the decisions necessary. Now, still as a couple, absolutely, you have to have that continuity of like the trust and like the talking points of like, buying the excavator was like, I knew it was one of those gut things like, I know this is such the right decision for us. It was $40,000 at the time, a lot of money, and it still is. But it was like, I'm telling you, Britt, I know this is the way to go. We really need to do this. This is so where we need to go.
And we had been working so hard to get out of debt. And, we only had one loan on a piece of equipment. I was like,
we're almost there.
Like, we don't have to do that. We can,
we can just be out of debt and it'll be great.
He's like, but I know this is what we can do with it. This is where we're going to go with this. And you just have to take that leap of faith.
And in the meantime,
he knows what he's doing. And
sure.
You can't work with your spouse if you can't trust that they'll make good decisions. Right. And you have to be able to accept that they're going to make bad decisions.
That's true too.
Right.
Yeah. And in the meantime, the excavator's turned probably $400,000 worth of work. So it's like,
who was I to
that was a no-brainer.
Question it?
But it wasn't as like a.
But when you want to be debt free, you don't want to take on that.
Yep.
Absolutely,
I totally get it.
And that was we were going to borrow. We were going to put money down on it and borrow. Because we tried. Anytime we borrow money from a machine, we try to put a chunk of money down on it to get it to a payment that we're comfortable with.
Sure.
And still the ultimate goal is to pay everything off. But at the same time, we're in this growth period, which we had an really interesting conversation about yesterday. Was like, you're trying to get ahead and you want to get out of debt, but at the same time, you got this growth model. And I especially started behind the 8 ball where I didn't start a business the smart way. And, with proper, just so many things there. But like, we're kind of behind the 8 ball. We have all this work at this time where I'm rebuilding a crashed company, no money to go, debt free and buy machinery. So we borrowed money to get machinery rolling. Now we paid off a lot of stuff and we own a lot of our own stuff, but at the same time we've got some stuff leveraged, which is a fancy word for debt. the Dave Ramsey quote. But I use that first on Paul's podcast, so sorry.
Well, I like just the idea is like, I've always said like make a decision, make it right. But at the same point, like if I bought a Tesla right now, like I want to buy a Tesla Model X, we could buy a Tesla Model X right now. But if I do that, am I going to screw up my construction loan that I want to do next year? So it's like, what do I want most versus what do I want now? And that's like always how we've tried to make decisions. Like, what do we really want? Okay. And it's tough because well, in 20 years from now, we want this $2 million retirement home in Charlevoix. Okay, well, so do I just make all my decisions in life, always saving my pennies for 20 years for the finish line? Well, there's certain checkpoints and things you want to do along the way. You want to take your kids to Disneyland. You want to, buy a different car. So it's like always this like give and take, right? And so I think you just have to, if I was going to sum it up, just get with your spouse and just get on the same page. And then you're both on the decision together and you have to make it right. I think the I hope there's not a lot of like, well, I'm just buying a mower and screw you. And, then like if you do that, like you're probably, I'm not here to give marriage advice, but
leader of your household.
Yeah. like that you got to come to a consensus, but like, do I, is Liz, like Liz said earlier, like, am I going to buy my Tesla now to screw up my construction loan in 9 months? No. But I told Liz, I said, as soon as we close on the construction loan on July 31st, August 1st, I'm buying my Tesla. And you were like, whatever. But because you were like, that was the best kind of consensus I was going to get from her. She's like, whatever. And then I was like, and then August 2nd, I'm buying the Polaris. And August 3rd, I'm buying this. And she's like, we need to talk. And so I'm
it's
so
usually
sound.
not we need to talk. It's you need to talk to our CPA.
Which I do. And then he's
and
like,
then he tells you what I want to say, but you listen to him.
Or I call Stanley. I'm like,
that's
Stanley.
how it always goes. I have ideas all the time, and someone else will talk to him. He's like, yeah, let's do that.
No, boy.
I told you that like 6 months ago.
And a lot of that is true, and a lot of that is fabrication.
But sometimes I talk to the CPA and he's like, Mr. Brian, he's African. He's like South African. He's like, Mr. Brian, that would be a great decision. You should go do that. And I'm like, which is kind of Indian accent there too. But and I go,
terrible.
so I come back. So I come back in the bedroom. And you're like, what did Michael have to say? I go, Michael said I can do it. And she's like, well, I'm gonna find us a new CPA. I'm like, no.
No, I like this guy.
But yeah. So I'm like, you always get the answer you want, Caleb, right? Like that's a good person, right?
Yeah, right.
Keep going back to that guy.
Yeah, stick with them. For sure.
I think as long as you can talk about it,
Yeah.
have a calm conversation. If you walk out of the room angry, no, you cannot go buy that piece of equipment.
No.
You have to come to an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like
so
if
we
Caleb
negotiate.
came home with the excavator without talking to me about it,
Oh, you'd
be
be
totally
mortified.
different. Yeah.
game over.
Yeah.
What was our most recent game? We had a pretty serious disagreement about something lately. What was that? I want to try to use that as context, or just as an example of the situation. I'm figuring your brain's going to remember it because the most dangerous thing
was it equipment or vehicle or
God, I don't know. I've
wanted
repressed
to buy the school bus truck.
that memory.
You wanted to buy a school bus truck?
The truck.
The great big giant international
the new one.
truck we bought.
Yeah.
No, I love that thing.
Yeah,
the
that's a
dump
whole nother
truck. I did not
conversation.
want to buy the dump truck. I hate
No, but I'm talking in the past couple weeks. We had a rough couple days in the office because we're like really disagreeing on something, vision wise or something. But okay, we'll pass.
What the truck was going to be used for? What the school bus?
Oh,
truck
interesting.
Was
Yeah, that was a big. Yeah, it was interesting. Like, is it going to be dedicated to stormwater crew, or is it going to be the floater truck, which I kind of more envision the thing like going between the two companies or divisions.
To be dedicated
whatever.
just one thing. I was like, no, it'll always be loaded with what he needs, and he just gets in and goes. And he's like, but no, the hardscape guys can use it to like pull stuff off the job site, and everything will fit on the truck, and it dumps. And I was like, no, that doesn't make sense because if stormwater needs it, like it just goes. And
Which
we
it would.
consulted with our guys about it.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever
we don't even like the truck
never
anyways.
came to a conclusion.
2 days later on Instagram, they bought a second truck. Hey, look, we have a life philosophy lately, and this sounds really stupid, but like buy two, whatever it is. I know you can't buy 2 dump trucks, but like if we get pizza and it's like I want pepperoni and ham and bacon, and she's like, I want some olives and mushrooms. I don't let olives and mushrooms touch my pizza. I'm like, look, it's $12. Just get a second pizza. It solves the fight. Like, I don't know if that works for everybody's marriage advice, but I always have this attitude. I'm like, buy 2. And so I bought my by the way, to go full circle, I bought my one wheel. And you're like, that thing is so stupid. So, and then Caleb, like I get Instagram messages from the wife while I'm at work and like cut grass, and I open it up. I'm like, what is this? And it's Liz going, like balancing on the board.
Yeah, right.
She's taking it through the hallway, and I'm like, I'm like, you want to try it out?
I would never drive that thing outside. It's a death trap. No.
It's not a death trap. It is not. It's the future of mobility.
I'd break a wrist or something.
It's
the future of marketing.
Yeah, that's how we're gonna market. That's how we're gonna trim grass. But I'm like, well, now you want one too. So
I don't.
Okay. Well, do we have some other questions, or are we still getting the eyeballs? So let's go back to how do we look so dapper? I mean, it does take a lot of effort to look this good. All of the guys listening in.
Kind of comes easy for me. I don't know about you.
Dove for men.
Was that Dove for Men? We're still trying to pursue the new sponsorship, Dove for Men. I was telling Caleb and Brittany. Because all these lawn care guys are like, you guys are so clean and da-da-da. Don't you ever get dirty?
I think it's hilarious when you don't actually work. You're always too clean. I mean, go in the shower, guys. Like, come on. No wonder your wives don't want to be with you in the business. You stink. Go take a bath.
Shots fired. And now, Dove for Men, Brian's 10. Well, that's really funny. Well, we're really looking forward to, we like a lot what you guys said about the family life, because there is a point where we want to like, in some capacity work from home, right? Not having me be out in the field all the time. Caleb, like you said, talking about having those conversations with your guys. So like maybe a week and a half ago now, I got lunch with Rob, one of my guys, it was like a good 3-hour like lunch and just powwow. And I was like, hey dude, like what do you want to do in the next 4 or 5 years? Like where are you going?
What are your goals?
What are you trying to do? Like how much money are you trying to make? Are you trying to be like a YouTuber, like make millions like David Dobrik? Are you like when he wants to go to school for the trades for electrician work? And but the irony was like he didn't qualify because he didn't have enough teaching and training. But he's like, well, how am I supposed to get training if I don't get the work? You know, it's like one of those
those dilemmas. Yeah,
he's 20, he knows enough, but he's not enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be good, you know, necessarily. And he's like, well, why can't I get in to like learn how to do it? And they're like, well, we want more people with more skill. He's like, well, I don't. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, well, let me in and teach me. And so he wants to go to school for nights and weekends for that. And I said, well, dude, I don't know if I can help you pay for this, if the company makes money, like, you know, we can just, because we're trying to just take the money and reinvest it into our people and the YouTube channel and our future.
Company culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I was like, do you want like a company truck? How's your car doing? He's like, I got a year left on this thing. I'm like, well, let's have a serious conversation. If you want to commit to what we're doing for 3 or 4 years and it's equitable for me to commit to you, let's get you a different car. Whether it's a leased Ford Ranger, you know, and you come take Thunder out, or you take your own truck, you know what I mean? I want to have these conversations, and it happens at every level. First off, you got to sell your wife, and your wife's got to sell you. Like you guys got to be on the same page. But then I loved how you said you got to talk to your guys. You know, because what was the conversation look like for you guys this spring? Because was that the conversation? Hey, we want to be more in the office. We want to grow the company. How did you guys approach all that?
We actually had a pretty serious company meeting this spring and really talk to the guys about where we want to go. Yeah. What our plans were. Talk to them about like, what do you need? What do you need to be productive? What do you need to be more efficient?
Okay.
Got really good feedback from there. And then we're like, you know, we want to help you guys succeed. We want to help meet your dreams. You know, how about life insurance policies? If I look into that and have someone come in, like, are you guys interested in this?
Absolutely.
And just like helping them save money. And like one of our guys wanted to buy a car. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, let's look at this. Like, let's find a car that you like, you know, if we'll help finance it or we'll help you get to this point for your family. Cause he needed a staple car.
Yep.
And just, I think if you like what you did, if you sit down with each guy and find out what their goals, because no one's goals are the same.
Nope. I agree.
Some people want a family, some people don't. Some people want to go to Disney World.
Yeah.
Some people don't care about vacation. And if you talk to your guys, like, what are your 3 goals and where do you want to be?
Yeah.
And then tell them how you can make that happen.
Yep.
And then tell them where the company's going and how those coincide.
That's
I
so
think
good.
You can build a really good company culture and get everyone on board.
That's so good.
It is.
And even if they don't capitalize on their own things, you're at least still talking to them about it. So at least they hope, or I hope that they know that you at least, even if they know they don't capitalize on what you're trying to, they at least know that you care, like that they are or not. And
Caleb tells them all the time, like, he's like, I care about you guys. Like, I want you guys, and all of our guys have families now. Like they're older, they're getting older now.
Yeah.
And, you know, like our main foreman, Bo, he's been with us for 20 years. Yeah. And so, like, you talking to your guy, I was like, you know, we should really talk to Bo about, like, what step he wants next in the business. Does he want to become, you know, more hands-off and just manage the crew? Is that something he wants? Or does he want to continue being in the field?
Was there anything surprising that you found from the conversation with the whole company in the spring? There was, 5-7 guys with you guys all there and you guys?
We had 4 guys there. Or John wasn't there. John wasn't in town yet.
Yeah, we had what's his face. So we run 4 full-time guys. We really should run about 5. We could really hit.
We have an interview tomorrow. I'm
so
excited.
Heck yeah,
dude. Yeah. So, I'm trying to think of how we had 4 full-time guys. We really need 5. We could really. Yeah, it's one of those things like we
keep them working, keep them busy.
We really could, and we could really do some more sales. And then this thing of fear holds you back. Of like, you never want to have to lay somebody off after you, because the guys we're hiring now, because we're aiming for all like foreman quality guys, and they cost a lot of money. They have families, and like as soon as you hire someone, that's a new member of your family. The way I look at it, like
you want to commit to them.
I don't want to have to lay anybody off in the wintertime, and I don't want to, start to skimp on hours because work is slow, or you worry about the economy and all that stuff. And so like fear begins to hold that back. But if you talk to your guys up front about like what you're going to do and do the best you can to keep them, busy and all that stuff. But, so what did we get out of that? I think one of the big things is like with your guys is, and it's just trying to get them set some even simple goals, just the most basic stuff a lot of times. and try to encourage them. Just set some basic stuff and help them through it. Realize it's not like setting up a Roth is not as hard as you think it is. It's actually on the computer setup's a piece of cake. I think a lot of people
are just scared of it.
So intimidated by it.
I don't know who to go to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And when we started ours, I asked my dad, I was like, how do I get a Roth?
Yeah.
Who do I call?
Yeah.
Right.
And he was able to walk me through that. And some people don't have that person.
Sure.
I was going to say,
trying to be that mentor, because, we've found so many mentors, trying to be that for our guys.
Absolutely.
And collectively for our guys, they have, that's 10 extra people. Like, they all have kids and wives and stuff. And so we essentially have 15 people to take care of.
Absolutely.
And that's how we look at that.
Absolutely.
No pressure.
I have a lot more kids than I thought.
Yeah. I always heard about it, through Ramsey with the servant leadership thing. And it's so true if you give a shit about your people.
Yeah.
And it's so true, because you're working for them as you are your own self too. Like, you're at least working for them to have a weekly paycheck, and what they do with that is their deal.
Right.
But at least that's what you're working for, as on top of your own goals. And there's still a priority list there, but it's so, with people, I get asked all the time of like, how do you keep these guys around for so long? And like, how do you find these good guys? And it's just like, and I've been preaching this a lot lately, but it's like, you got to be somebody you would want to work for. And I sure try to not be, an idiot or unreasonable to work for. And that's a huge thing of it. That's kind of a diversion there, but
no,
you can't their time with their family is just important as ours with
absolutely.
Our family.
Yeah. And they don't care about your company like you care about your company.
Right.
Why would they? And
we'll start to cut you off, but I was going to say,
okay.
did you guys communicate to your guys your expectations too? Like, hey, now I also context like the COVID thing, right? So now all the kids are out of school, kids are home. We don't know if kids are going back in the fall. Did you guys like have this like compounded conversation? Like, hey, here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow the company, work less in the field. We also want to have some family time. So like, is your family time up 25%? Like, you know what I mean? Are these different things that you guys also communicated to your guys?
We've been out of the field for a while. Been, but our responsibilities out of the field have shifted as I've pushed more onto the guys for their own job requirements. So we've been out of the field for a little while. This is, I don't know the last time I've laid a brick for hire, frankly.
When we hired because we always had Bo, but when we hired the extra project manager with the higher wage, that became Caleb's main objective. He was like, I've got to sell work to keep all these people busy.
Yep.
And so we only go out in the field
once or twice a month.
I'm beginning to get in the mindset too of like, you spend all week in the office, I start to lose my mind because I'm an outdoor guy anyways. Yeah. And so like we worked in the field, you and I, Wednesday, is that right? And the guy's like, get out of here, you're screwing the place up. It's like, okay, we'll go do our own job. We'll go start our own little, day pro. We'll go do our own day. But I need to get out in the field because I'm wasting away to nothing. Like, I'm like fragile anymore.
You're going to go to Lifetime Fitness.
I do. I seriously, that's what we used to laugh about when we were working in the field. We'd be working on a project and be people jogging and stuff. And I'm like, people that jog don't have construction jobs, what I mean? And it's like, and so now it's like, I'm out jogging or something. I'm not, but I need to. And it's like, because I don't have a construction job anymore. It's like, I got to get back in shape. So I think we're trying to even get out. This is again, getting away from, I think the freaking question, sorry, but
the COVID question.
What?
The COVID question.
The COVID question.
Allocating more time.
For your family or?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So we really are super lenient with guys, getting time off.
Yeah.
And like Bo wanted to take his daughter to her first day of kindergarten the other morning. And he's like, hey, is that cool? I'm like, of course it's cool. It's fine.
And we respect that.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
If someone's kid has a baseball game or something, go ahead.
Yeah,
go to I don't want you to miss that.
Yep.
And the guys too are empowered enough that they can and actually Bo ended up not going for whatever reason. But he's like, well, I realized they're on a delay start and it was at 10 in the morning and all that.
Oh, sure.
And he's like, so it wasn't until 10 and then I wouldn't have got in and then Travis, wasn't set up. I was like, well, dude, you could have just come in early, set them up, and then go back. Go back in town for a couple hours, deal with that stuff, and then come back to work. He's like, yeah, I know, but I was like, I just figured by the end of it, I just come into work early and be done with it. So I was like, you can do it. Like, I'm totally cool with it. And any of the other guys, like, you just communicate with Bo or who your PM is, and like, you can do this. Yeah. I was like, don't abuse it, but like, I want them to be as entrepreneurial as they possibly can be, and like know that they can take that time. They know what they've got to get done. So we've got to hit these objectives, and which we still suck at like defining objectives on projects, but they still know what the ultimate end game is. They know where we need to be and they know how much needs to get done. and all that. So,
well, I think it was the podcast you did with Stan where like you were like, well, if we want to sell it to our people, so our people will sell it back to us. And I was like, dude, that's good stuff. Like you said something like that, and that's how I articulated it in my brain. Like if you're committed to them, they'll be ultra committed to you too. You know.
Yeah.
With the
reminds me a lot of like the Company of One book. Like
I love the Company of One book. If you guys have you guys read the Company of One book?
You guys are basically like empowering them to be like their own little company. Like
which is what we want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I have a fleeting thought. What was it? Like in terms of, so let me ask you this: future of Auman Landscape, and we'll probably button up here in the next few minutes. Not to take their whole afternoon, but no,
their whole weekend.
Yeah, like you must focus on us. Well, because like Paul Jameson comes in town, it's a lot of work, like hosting somebody. You guys know, and I don't want to like overstay my bounds, whatever. But the Josh Latimer talks about like the 5 different phases of entrepreneurship. Right? When you guys read our live event, it's like in the beginning you're the guy, then it's like you with 2 crews, and it's like you're the quarterback for a couple crews, right? Then there's like the office manager that kind of coordinates all the chaos. And then like level 5 is like you're a true entrepreneur, which means you can walk away from the company, you come back in 12 or 18 months, and it's at the same size or bigger without any involvement. And I'm like, dude, that sounds good. Who doesn't want to be like level 5, right? So it kind of sounds like you guys are 2, 3, 3.5, 3.5. You know, you're like trying to go to 4. So do you guys see anybody coming on board? You're talking in the field, but anybody operations to help with the sales role or the office manager role? Because I know you were just saying that with the nanny, like she's controlling the house, which is like able to let you focus on the business. But now are you guys so much more involved in the business where you're like, dude, I should be doing this instead? Like, you know, it's getting more, not to sound ultra truistic here, like, but you're going to the top. Like, is there other things that you're looking for people to come on to start handling that you don't want to do anymore?
Well, when you guys talked about like, you don't have to just have lawn care income and, you know, so branching out to different directions, you know, in real estate or setting up an Airbnb or just something like that, like having more help in the office with systems that we've already put in place. And those are the reasons systems are in place. Right?
Absolutely.
Just hire help and it just still manages itself. We'll never totally be removed from the business. Like I can't imagine not doing anything, but
I'll see you there personally.
It's my baby.
It's my baby.
That's my extra baby.
It's my first business.
It's your passion.
Yeah.
So, but I think it would be cool to eventually bring people into the office, but that is like a huge, like,
is that like your baby, like your intricacies?
You cannot get in the books because you'll probably categorize something better than I would.
Oh, really?
You know, like,
that's fair.
No, it's just letting go of that is just hard. And I know I will have a very hard time with that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I tell you, like we were talking about the other day with like the formula to build a company is really pretty easy. Just can you stomach the risk and the capitalization of it? And so it's like right immediately we could hire an estimator, a sales guy, and a couple more people for the field and go to $5 million probably in like no time, right? And it's that easy and it's that hard, right?
So is it more business like X's and O's tactical, or is it more interpersonal like psychology for like you, Brittany, or you, Caleb? Like, because I'm interested in knowing for me selfishly. There's times where I'm hiring people out to like edit videos or do a podcast, and I just gave up the podcast. You guys know Marty, Mr. Producer, right? I'm like, oh, dude, like this thing's an aircraft carrier, and I'm like, really, you know, it's like, I don't know.
For me, the scary thing was our bookkeeper. As bad as I am, as like I said on this podcast, like if I'm running our books, like
you
it's
wanted
not
to do the
thing.
books for years,
and I was like, but like because that's what I'm supposed to do, and like that's we own a lawn business, and that's my identity is like as the woman, I'm running the back end of the business, right? No, like that's, I should not be doing that at all. But turning that over to somebody to see our bank statements and like
dude.
I mean, that's a very personal thing.
Say, no, you're actually not making any money. You need to sell.
Yep, that was
like,
very scary. Like, why are you doing this? This isn't actually turning a profit, or like it's a scary thing to like put out there. But like it's freed us up so much. I regret it.
Do you guys have any of that?
It's better because they can coach you. Like you need to focus more on this.
Yep, you have an outside
You're spending too much money eating out. If you didn't do that, you could increase your income by $5,000 a year.
Yep.
$5,000.
That's a very conservative number with how much Brian eats out.
That's not bad per month.
Well, that wasn't directed at anybody in the room. It was just a general example.
$5 a month. That's not bad.
Like, you know, I think by hiring professionals and people that are good at what you're not good at,
amen,
frees up, you know, your time to go do whatever other income.
And that's
source
where
you
like
want.
your ego of owning the business and like the identity.
Do you guys feel that way? Do you guys feel that way?
Like it's hard.
I used to. I've gotten over. I cut you off, Liz. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, what a pig.
Give up your mic.
You're right, take off your head.
We'll just mute him on line one.
Yeah, Brian's pushing.
It's three-way podcast.
Cut out. I'm kind of over. I wouldn't hesitate to turn over the nuts and bolts at this point of like, be it accounting or, whatever. I don't know that I'd want to turn over the sales yet.
Sure.
But at the same time, I don't think if it's one of those things, like if a sales guy just fell into my lap, the problem with a sales guy is immediately you got to be able to produce is the thing. And that would be like exponential sales growth.
They're going to be like on it immediately.
Yeah. Those guys are going to sell $500,000 a year at least on top of where you are, so.
And you got to be ready to consume it for your guys, your production.
Which comes like, that's the big question is, do you hire the sales guy or do you hire the crew
The chicken
first?
or the egg.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then estimate. And then as long as they can, a sales guy can estimate too, you're good. So you got the dual package there. But like, as far as the accounting stuff goes, I would turn that over. I would have no bones about turning that over.
Are you guys,
in other
still
words,
do it?
Brittany, you're not very good at it.
Are you guys still doing it at this level? Or, I mean, people unfiltered here.
I do all the books.
The payroll, the books.
But they're checked on every day.
Yeah, but I mean, we could do way better job cost accounting and stuff. Like I run a quick P&L after a project. Like, ooh, that was ugly. Or like, ooh, that was nice. And, so like...
Caleb, we like, you want to do a P&L on this one? I was like, nah.
Like, we know it was ugly. Let's just shove that one.
I did that last week.
Let's not look at that one.
Yeah, right. Like, we know that job was murder. Let's not mess with that. But... No, I mean, I would but we would have so much better, like in full openness, we would have if we did better P&Ls at the end of projects, it would be a kick in the face of like, oh man, we really need to quit horsing around with this style of work. We're totally not making what we should on these and we need to raise our prices. And if we stop, winning bids on that kind of work, then that's so be it. I'm out of that level of the romance with the work, now it's about building future stuff. And the big thing I'm struggling with here, this is the big thing. And I've committed to it last week.
No, we're documenting it now.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
but like starting to turn down like small jobs.
Yeah.
And like stuff I'm trying to set up, unless it's for clients we've already worked with and we have a relationship and we know they're easy to work with and we just say like, yeah, that's like going to be $3,000 to $5,000, just bill us. Okay, cool. But after that, like any small jobs, I'm kind of working the number out. But I think most anything under like a $3,500 job, because those little jobs still take all the logistics of like a $10,000 job.
And it's they take your time away
so badly. And it's like, and that job just covers one day of the week. And it's oh my God. And I got 2 days on the back end of it, whatever, in the front end for that matter. So that's the scary thing of like starting to turn down work. And it's like, oh, geez.
How many hours a week do you guys spend in the office?
Between just like, it depends on the technicality of that, what you mean, like in the office. Okay, like so just like managing at least 40 hours a week for sure.
But what about like payroll, bookkeeping, 10, 20 hours at least?
So this year I've tried to spend Thursdays.
I remember this. Yeah, Thursdays. Yeah, so like Caleb goes, every Thursday? He goes, I don't remember this. And you're like, it's a goal. It's a goal. I was like,
okay, so let's preface this. This is a goal.
See, I listen to the podcast.
Everyone writes their new business plan at the beginning of the year. And it's worked.
It was so real, by the way. It was so like authentic when you answer on Stan's podcast. I was like, that is hilarious. Because we have goals too. We're going to nip this in the bud. 6 weeks goes by. We haven't done that once.
Yeah, right.
We were going to drop a YouTube video every Friday. So you can look back at our history and it's like 2 a month.
That's us with the second channel. It's great.
That's a huge undertaking.
But so I set this goal and it was based on other people that I've listened to, like how they run their businesses. And every Thursday they balanced their books and like did the batch screen on QuickBooks and like said everything where everything should go. Payroll we do bi-weekly, so I don't have to do that often. Amen. And that's just entering into QuickBooks and printing out the check.
Sure.
And that was a big time. Just that little thing was a big time saver years ago. Yeah. I was like, wow, that's great.
And then we switched to Element Time, and that like did all the time. I didn't have to be like 8 to 4 minus 35-minute lunch.
Yeah.
And so that saved a ton of time. And just like little tiny things give me
which thing goes into QuickBooks.
Back.
QuickBooks does all the tax crap, spits out a paycheck or direct deposits into the guys that want direct deposit. That's a huge time saver. So the automating and getting rid of tasks you don't want to do, that's a huge thing for office savings.
And then our accountant will review it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
that's awesome.
But you still spend, a lot of time just doing that
back
crap.
to that. Actually, office like book work, I probably spend 8 hours a week on it.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time is like designing or estimating or like helping him.
And putting out fires and like dealing with like running a company and like,
kids in the next room.
Making peanut butter and jelly.
Right. Yeah. And still doing all the parenting stuff that we want to do and just putting out fires. And, we still deal with all that stuff of like, Friday before you guys came down, I had a big day plan of like what I was going to crush in the office. And then, oh, hey, the dump truck starter's out in 30 miles away.
Oh, wow.
The other guys, I would normally just not deal with that and send some of the guys up, like, hey, run up and grab Travis, the truck's down. We'll have it towed down and we'll deal with all that crap. But it was like those guys were already behind on a job they're on. I was like, I'll go get them. I'll bring them down to keep my guys on site producing because we're way freaking behind on a project we're on right now.
Yeah.
And so that, again, just putting out a fire. But generally, I really try to delegate a lot of stuff out. But where was I going with that? I had a point to that. Oh, well.
I don't know.
You're your own competition. You hold yourself back. No one else does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so true.
If you guys haven't listened to the episode, not you guys here at the table, but I'm saying you guys listening out of the podcast, Brittany's like, what? I'm like, I think it was like episode, I don't know, like 93, 94, 95. It was called Be a Quitter. And I just think we all do so much. And somebody here said at the table, like at the beginning, like some of us only like to do certain things. Like if you love cutting grass and you like cutting grass, like don't be necessarily doing the payroll. Like hire somebody out to do the payroll.
Absolutely. Can I just emphasize that like 150%?
No, straight up, because there's so many things that I love doing, so many things I despise doing, and I know
such a great way to burn yourself out of the business.
You bet.
Dude, yeah, there's so many. Yeah,
or crash your business like I did.
Yeah, there's things I'm doing and I'm like, I hate this, and then I actually get resentful of the business when really I'm only resentful at one thing in the business. 100%. But like because you get mad, you just lump it all together. You're like, I hate my marriage. You don't hate your marriage. You hate like the fact that your husband leaves the toilet seat up. Put the stupid toilet seat down. Oh, look, you just fixed your marriage. Like it's like there's little things that drive you nuts. Get rid of those stupid things. Have somebody's always got to pay attention to it. We say that all the time, but it doesn't have to be you. Now you still have to check the books. I think one of you guys just said that. You still got to check the books of your accountant. I think you said that, Brittany. You got to check the checker, right? Who's fact checking the fact checkers? Right. but at the end of the day, like if you don't like doing it, hire somebody else out, and it's pennies on the dollar when you really think about it. Let alone from a business standpoint, but for me, mental health, like mentally health.
Now,
like if I'm thinking about it, I can't stand it.
Just one thing, his podcast with Keith Kalfas, he had a good point. Like what if you don't have money to hire these people to do this? So, we're saying, go hire a payroll person, go hire a CPA, you go hire someone, to file your paperwork. Okay, well, I'm a one-man show and I don't know if I can afford that.
For me personally, in the beginning, we were broke because we had, if you're running a real company with like real margins and like you're having a real product or service, there should be profit. Whether it's 25% margins or 50% margins, I don't know. Everybody's business is different. But eventually the idea is to like get that money coming in, and you should be always working on your craft and your skill too. So like eventually you're like to keep it super practical, you're the guy cutting grass for $20 and you should be doing it for 40. Okay, so a lot of us start that way. And if you come out of the gates at $40, like, God bless you. Like, I wish that was my story. Or you're doing a retaining wall. It's like, yeah, that's a $7,000 job. But if you come out of the gate and you're like the $3,200 job, okay, like, let's get those numbers from 32 to 7 and learn our numbers and do it correctly. For you, for the business, for the industry.
Right.
Okay, so if you're that guy, you have to keep growing your skill set, your marketing, your branding, and your clientele to get there. But in the beginning, you are going to do it all. But the goal is to get the margin, get the profit, grow your skill set so you can charge more.
Right.
And then with that surplus, start hiring these things out. When do you make the jump? I mean, for us, when we hired the CPA that we did a year and a half ago, it was next level. Like, I was like, dude, this guy wants like $5,000 this, $2,000 that, $3,000 this. I'm like, and you were like, we can't afford this. I go, we can't not afford this.
I was going to say, chances are the money's there.
Yeah.
But the CPA is going to dig it up where it's going.
100%.
Like, we're like, dude, you're got way too many hours in this job. Like, what do you got to do to either be more efficient or like raise your price?
Well, the money is always there. And a good help in anything should be able to pay for itself. Like your nanny pays for herself because she frees you up to go do income producing things or good mental health producing things that allow you to think better about your, the money is there if you're hiring the right people.
Well, like, and practical.
Eventually.
Practical stuff ended year for us 18 months ago. We were the shoebox people. Like you just said, like.
A nightmare. Oh my God.
We were talking about this at dinner. Remember? You're like, well, how do you like talk to your CPA? I'm like, every month. And he like keeps me regimented, organized, marching orders. What's that? We were a mess because we had 2 companies going on and all this stuff going on. I'm like, and Bedell's like, dude, this like, he's like, it's all good. He's like, and it's on the level, but it's a mess. And if you get audited or something like this, it's going to be a mess. And he's like, just trust me, not only where you're at, but where you're going. He's like, if you don't fix it now, this is like 3 years ago, we're having conversations. He's like, if you don't fix it now, right? It's like, you're going to be just, this is a huge can of worms 5 years from now. And I was like, yeah. So to me, it was like the fear of God. I was like, oh my God, I need to fix this like now. And then for our books and our bookkeeping, we had the shoebox thing, and we would pay our quarterlies, but we had the shoebox thing. And I'm like, I don't know, like every year we always get back, or we owe between $1,000 and $3,000, and we always had it. So it was never like a real. It was
always offensive.
Yeah. Well, no, it was always defensive.
Defensive, sorry. I don't know my sports very well.
I have no idea how many quarters are in baseball either, So, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and so like, if you're operating your business that way, like, it's not bad, it's not an indictment, but that's not the proper way to do it. Right. And so,
well, some people are perfectly happy too, just it being them, and they take pride in that, and that there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to have a giant team or a giant business if you don't want to.
Just do it right.
Yeah.
But it takes time to learn how to do it right. Mm-hmm. And I was like, look, I can make YouTube videos, I can cut grass, I can get Rob out there, I can go do 10 aerations in a day and 4 overseeds, make $2,000. I'm like, I don't want to do my books. I hate it. Like, again, it goes back to what I know my strengths on was.
Well, so a client's hiring you to do that aeration because you know what you're doing. They're not hiring you to do their books.
No.
Right? So why the hell are you doing your own books?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, it just came to me. It's like, man, yeah, that's a good point. And I have been there when there's no money to hire the person, but really that as soon as you can. Yeah. But you got to shop and find.
Yeah, it's a great goal. It's a great motivation too. And like, there is, when you first start your business, there is a season of just grit where you are grinding it out after, when the 100%. Sun goes down and you can't work anymore, you got to go home and you got to do that. You got to figure it out. But that shouldn't be that way forever.
Right. Yep.
And maybe 100%. You don't have someone you talk to every month. Maybe it's once every 6 months, and then you bump it up to once a quarter.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you just set little goals like that you can meet that will, in the end, give you a business and not a hobby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, exactly.
And by the way, there's good CPAs and not so great CPAs too. So you got to shop around a little bit and find the one that jives with you and is actually good and responsive and all that stuff too. So they're just because you hire a CPA doesn't mean they're good or they understand like entrepreneurship or any of that too. By the way.
Yeah. Well,
we actually
based on the conversation
clean this year. We've had QuickBooks for 10 years.
Yeah, that sucked to do.
And we've had so many accountants in the past that haven't made us do the right thing. They've just we'll just add this.
Band-Aid.
Yeah, it's just a Band-Aid or a bullet wound.
Yeah.
And he's like, well.
Shouldn't be classified as that technically.
He's like, you really should balance this every month. I was like, yeah, but then I have 18,000 transactions to go through for the past 10 years.
Uh-huh.
Right.
And I was like, I'll just wipe QuickBooks. And we bought a brand new one.
A new account.
Total new account.
Yeah.
And that was scary, but that was good.
Yeah.
Feels good.
It makes it so easy.
And that was one of those things too. I was like, God, we lose all that CRM. We lose all that customer database tied into the new books. So it's not like you type in a client and you got to put in all the bull crap info again. Yeah. And that was one of those things where I kind of was like, are we sure this is a good way to go? I think I was pretty much against it, but I was like, ultimately I was like, this end of things, and if this is the right thing to do, let's do it then.
Well, okay. Well, let's do this. Let's do final thoughts because we're gonna wrap up.
Yes, that was
I was gonna say, what the hell?
No, this is good. This is real. I think this is really.
We could do this for hours.
I mean, well, it's like everybody in this conversation is growing, and that's the last thing I'm gonna say is that we were talking back. We were driving home from dinner, and I said, back in the day, $15 an hour was good money to me. But when I started making $50 an hour, I can't be chasing the $15 an hour work. Right. And then eventually I started being able to make $200 per hour doing certain things. And why would I be doing the $50 an hour stuff when I should be focusing on the $200 an hour work? But if your self-image or your thinking doesn't evolve, it doesn't elevate, it doesn't change. Everyone listening to this podcast, I pray that you mentally, let alone your business physically, isn't the same place it was 6 months ago. Right? In 6 months from now, we should all be at a different level. That's why we do the podcast. That's why we do the YouTube videos. Yes, there's entertainment, and yes, there's escapism, and yes, we're having fun telling yuck stories, but the goal is bro, we're trying to make money. Most of us, we're trying to run a profitable, successful business. And so for me, there's going to be a point where I should be doing $400 an hour work based on some skill set, but I have to train my brain to let go of this. You can call it a middle-class mentality, a worker mentality, the ditch digger mentality, this, neck down money mentality,
or just plain old stinginess too.
Yeah. I mean, being cheap, sometimes people are way too cheap. I know so many people, they're like, I'm not going to spend, $150 or $300 on a pair of shoes because $40 shoes are just fine. I'm like, you've never wore a $300 pair of shoes. you know, and we're getting some books
I haven't, but I bought $200 cowboy boots. So
there you go. Okay. But you know what I'm saying? Like there's some things where if you've never tried it, you don't know. So that's my takeaway is like if you're still doing stuff that you did today that you were doing 3 months ago or 6 months ago, or I won't even say doing, but because doing is a derivative of thinking. So if your thinking hasn't changed in the last 3 to 6 months, then you need to have a hard look in the mirror, because I think, Caleb, you were saying at the beginning, it's all leadership, and it's servant leadership. And if the leader of the organization is not growing, the organization's not going to be growing. Mm-hmm. All right. So what's your takeaway, babe? You're up. Any takeaway from this conversation?
You remind me I was watching the butterfly outside.
There's hummingbirds behind us like crazy. And
it was like a lot of just information.
Yeah. I think... Okay, so something we didn't even talk about, but I think is obvious on this podcast is like when you associate with other business owners, you can like the reason this podcast is so long is we kind of like mastermind about these topics. And so if you don't have anybody in your life, like we appreciate you guys so much and just having us out and like hanging out with you. Like you take a coal away from the fire and it goes out. Like you, as an entrepreneur, you have to surround yourself with other people who are doing what you're doing, going where you're going, not even in the same industry, but just living the same lifestyle, and have that drive. And so if you can tell from this podcast, just with our conversation, take that with you throughout your day, and find somebody in your life that you can have these conversations with, and it's just really powerful.
I love that. And if you don't have somebody local, like you got the Green Industry Podcast, you got our podcast, other people, YouTube videos, but
there's so many things you can find to just sow into yourself.
Great community of people.
Mm-hmm. There's find anything you need to know.
There's no excuse for lack of information now. It's not like there's just no excuse to like you've got the world in your pocket on your phone, and you can learn any of the basic accounting stuff. So like you just gotta take the time and just do it.
Stay on the first page.
Stay on the first page.
Yeah, right.
All right, Caleb, what's your takeaway? Open mic. We'll wrap these up.
So mine is a lot self-serving, because like I said, the whole time we're sitting here talking, and it's just like, oh man, there's things that like it's one of those things where it's like, God, I got a commitment tomorrow, Monday, Labor Day, I got to do, but otherwise, like, dude, I cannot wait to crush on a few things Tuesday that I want to do. Like, my gears are just going nuts, and like, one of my thing is like. Just sitting here reminding me of like, Caleb, we're running a bad organization. We need to tighten up our P&Ls on each job instead, knowing where we're at on each job, right? Instead of just like, I know it was ugly, but like, but also you get into that rat race thing of like, we got the next $40,000 project coming up, and like we got to order materials and deal with all this stuff, or like my guys do, but we've still got front end work we've got to do on the job.
Absolutely.
And also, too, now we've got a whole issue with material shortages because all the crazy COVID stuff from the spring. So we're having to source stuff a little differently and all that. And it's all, that's, I could just say an excuse, right? Or just like making up issues. I'm not making it up, but it's just like, get that crap out of the way and let's just keep moving forward. So I'm like super insanely motivated. It's like one of those things when you go just hanging out with you guys, it's always so motivating. But like, you go to a conference or something and you're like even going to GIE, and like when I come back and like driving home, I'm like, I can't get home fast enough to like start, smashing on the business or something like that. And keeping that momentum rolling forward is such a big deal too, because it's like, okay, when Wednesday rolls around and my things are going crazy and all that stuff, it's like, try to keep that mentality in from the weekend. And that's why doing these kind of things, like you said, surrounding yourself with people who are like trying to go where you're going. You racehorses, hang out with racehorses kind of deal, right? Thoroughbreds don't hang out with donkeys, that kind of mentality. But like that's good. My big what is my big takeaway is like, I've got my own crap I need to get together still. And so I sit here, I sit here and like, so that's one of the things. And like, I guess I always try to relate this to like I've been at the level of like, I don't have money for an accountant, and I don't have, it's like the guys listening, gals listening, like you're there. I freaking get it. Like, and it's Keith Kalfas drew this out of me real well. I think it's like, he's like, what if you don't have that money right now? What if you don't have that money right now? Keith like locks eyes with you and like sucks your soul out and kind of stuff. It's like, oh my God.
I don't know.
You're like, you're right, Keith. I know. I've forgotten where I've come from. But it's like,
he keeps it like that. I love it.
Oh, he does, man. He keeps it ground level so well.
Keith will look at you in the eye and go, how much money do you have in your bank account right now? Tell me. I'm like, it's really personal. He goes, tell me. I go, I tell him. He goes, oh. He goes, well, I have a little bit less than that. I go, well, thank you, sir. And he's like, good for you. And so it's like this really piercing, because I'm like, what's the right answer? Do I just lie? 90,000, And I go, I got 900 because I, put my stupid rim on backwards. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
Let's just say I can order off the dollar menu without an issue.
You guys want some cinnamon twist?
Right. Oh, I love cinnamon twists and chips and cheese.
I know.
Yep, that's what we're doing for dinner. All right, cool.
Okay.
Go. Britt,
so
what's
your biggest takeaway is priorities and
all self-serving stuff. But like, again, so I sit here and pontificate on what should be done and what you should do and all that stuff. And I still
wrap up, not another story.
But like, it's, you know, I'm not immune to the things I'm still even saying you should do. And then we're even still struggling with issues, you know, within the company. We're not perfect.
Yeah, all these are ideas and goals.
Yeah, right. And so, that's my big takeaway.
Things that we know we should be doing. We're just, we're trying. Everyone's trying.
So we're going to Brittany now. Brittany's rapid thoughts.
Train wreck.
I think we got an answer.
Caleb. My segment was, right?
I've been talking with my hands like people can see it.
I do all the time.
That's why I just sit here and like Paul Jameson.
That's why Brian's got the cup away from me so I can't back in.
Paul Jameson at our studio, he's like banging stuff. And he's like boom in the metal. And I'm like, why can't you just sit? Like I'm just sitting with my hands in my lap. I've like trained myself. Don't
be
move.
Still, son. Be still.
I'm like, just don't move. And all you guys are looking out the windows.
I keep looking at the butterflies and the hummingbirds and
Anyway.
Okay, so I think I just like it's important that people know you can have a family and you can have a business.
Yeah.
And you both can work in the same business.
Yeah.
All of that's possible. You just have to prioritize it.
I like it.
I like that.
Prioritize it.
You guys do that really well.
You do.
You give us hope.
I think it's one thing
I hope we do.
I think it's one thing I'm very confident with that we are doing right the way we want to see it, the way we think we want, the way we have written, your book, your company's your book, right? And you can write it backwards, backwards. You can write it backwards. So like you guys are reverse engineering your retirement. Let's say you're like, so like, it's totally that way. Like you can reverse engineer everything. And so like with the child rearing, we're really trying hard to make that priority. And I think that's one thing we're actually, I think, doing fairly well on.
Absolutely. They were great little kids. Zeke, Addison, and Levi, super cute. Levi, he was upstairs and we were hanging out. Caleb was showing me some of his Second Amendment equipment. And,
I don't know any of that stuff.
And it was funny because little man was going to the bathroom and he's like finishing up potty training, Caleb's telling me. And he goes, "Daddy, I did it." And Caleb walks in and goes, "Whoa, that's a smell. How does that come out of a 2-year-old?" And then so like they like wrap up in there. And so he runs downstairs and Caleb's like, "Don't forget to tell mommy that you get your ice cream sandwich." I was like, that is a reward system. When can I do mine? Like if I go do the same thing, Caleb's like, "It's only for 2-year-olds. You don't qualify." I was like, oh, well, darn
We don't have
it.
that many cookies.
That's all in
That's
all in contract negotiations.
But thank you so much for introducing us to your guys' family and showing the house and
the chickens.
The chickens. Liz wants a chicken coop now.
You are going to get one on Christmas Day in
Oh
a
my
box.
God. I swear to like, you ever watch a movie and it's like, it's not happening. And then like the scene changes. The next scene, it's like they're going home with a dog.
And then, Brian with a basket of eggs, like walking back into the house.
And then like
Brian.
and Liz is smiling out the window like,
did you not see their little one chasing the chickens? Like that was so cute.
No, I was looking at the chicken coop because Caleb's telling me about, red-tailed hawks that can like swoop in there. He's like, well, the sunflower like, stops them from, dive bombing. I'm like, who are you? What are you talking about? Like, what are we doing here?
You were busy buying mumpkins.
I was supporting Addison's fundraiser.
Oh God, yeah.
She comes over.
She's a little business owner and owner.
She just
got her
shake me
brothers
down.
employed for her. Like
she just shake me down. She's like, "Would you like to buy some?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
Anything you want.
I'm like, she's like, "Well, the minimum is 100." She didn't say that, but that's how
she
she
wanted
should
to
lead.
set up a table by the road. I was
Really?
like, no.
Oh, yeah.
What did? Yeah. I put her up to that. That's what I was wondering. I didn't tell her to go sell to Brian.
No, she asked everyone.
Oh, cool.
I don't care. I mean,
She asked our guys.
I give her a couple bucks.
We're like dumping like debris over the hill.
Well, it's like the old Girl Scout cookie one. Like when what's their line? Like, how much dream do you want to buy? Like, I'm trying to get like a new bicycle. So how much dream would you like to buy? And it's like, I don't. Apparently, $4,000. I'll take a pallet of little Thin Mints.
So I'm saying if we ever have a daughter, we're screwed.
We're so screwed. But they were super cute, super fun.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. So, all right. Well, anything else that you guys want to add? If not, we're going to sign off.
This is
the podcast. Well, apparently we've also come to learn that my praying over the dinner food blessing is the same voice I sign off the podcast with, according to Brittany Auman. She's like, "Oh, you're doing your prayer voice. That's also your podcast voice." I'm like,
it gets slowly deeper.
It gets deeper. Well, guys. Well, there's the sign off. Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Can't wait to catch up with you guys on the next one. Amen. All right. Bye. Amen.
Man, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did today. It really is one of the reasons that I'm just grateful to be a part of the green industry, the lawn care community, hard-working families striving for excellence in their craft, knowing it's going to help build the type of life they've envisioned. It's the American dream, right? All right, I don't want to get too sappy here. Hey, have you made plans to attend L'Entrepreneur Academy Live November the 7th in Novi, Michigan? Caleb and Brittany, they're going to be speaking at this day-long event along with Nick Carlson, Corey Ballard, Jeff Joyner, Stan Genetic, also Keith Kalfas. Tell you what, I'll put a link to that as well as a link to the Hardscape Academy in today's show notes.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.